Chapter 1557. Qilin Transmigration Ladle? The system's serious voice rang in Bufang's head. That voice seemed to be reverberating unceasingly, spreading majestically. Bufang could not help but take a deep breath. He had to admit that the name was really domineering. It was quite similar to the Qilin. Of course, that was without mentioning the Qilin's demonic laughter that made Bufang speechless. Holding the simple ladle in his hand, Bufang felt an aura that was about to burst out of his chest. It made Bufang feel as if his body was filled with infinite power. This should be an illusion. Could it be that if he was given a ladle, he could pry open the sky? Bufang weighed the ladle in his hand. It was a small ladle and looked rather plain. The ladle was dark in color, and other than the handle, the rest of the ladle was made of a strange mineral. The mineral was pitch black, causing the ladle to be pitch black as well. It was the last piece of the god of cooking set. According to the Qilin, there were not many hosts who could gather all the fragments of the god of cooking set and summon this ladle. Bufang did not know if Mu Hongzhi had been summoned, but even if he had failed. He played with the ladle for a while. The ladle gave Bufang a feeling that he could control it like his own arm, as if it had merged with his consciousness and grown out of his arm. Bufang could not wait to cook now. However, he suppressed the impulse. After all, he had more important things to do now. That was to repair the god of cooking set. He had to summon Nicholas, Mulberry, the black turtle, and the white tiger. Bufang felt so lonely without them. Now that there was a Qilin in Bufang's spirit sea, it would be very lively if the other artifact spirits returned as well. Bufang's head was a little swollen. The Qilin had imparted the method to repair the god of cooking set into his mind. His mind was calm. Streams of light flashed in front of Bufang's eyes. Bufang was reading the method of repairing the suit given to him by the Qilin. However, the more he read, the stranger Bufang's expression became. This repair method seems a little, the original artifact spirit was flawed. If it was a complete artifact spirit, it wouldn't have been destroyed by a heavenly god. So, in order to make the artifact spirits whole, I need to guide them through the supreme laws of the universe, to the place where the artifact spirits sleep and wake them up. Bufang took a deep breath. Where was the sleeping place of the artifact spirit? The fog in the spirit sea? It shouldn't be. Bufang frowned and fell into deep thought. He wanted to ask the system, but according to the system's nature, it probably wouldn't give Bufang an explanation. From the looks of it, repairing the god of cooking set was going to be a long time coming. However, it wasn't a complete restoration. It didn't seem that troublesome to restore them to their original state. Bufang's eyes lit up. Bufang stood still. According to the method described by Boss Qilin, his mind immediately sank into the spirit sea. Specks of white light floated out like fireflies and spread in all directions. The bright kitchen became dark in an instant, and only white light could be seen dancing in the air. The god of cooking's menu in the spirit sea made a rustling sound as if the pages were about to turn. The true form of his divine sense floated out of Bufang's spirit sea and hovered over Bufang's head. Buzz, spirit energy gushed out of Bufang's mouth. The law of transmigration emerged. Behind the true form of his divine sense, a savage beast seemed to open its eyes. Boom! An ancient aura erupted. The next moment, beams of light shot up into the sky from under Bufang's body. A familiar aura spread out from them. Bufang's mind flickered. Around him, the broken god of cooking set emerged in an instant. The cracked dragon bone kitchen knife, the broken white tiger heaven stove, the torn vermilion robe, and the cracked black turtle constellation walk swish. The law of transmigration seemed to have turned into a stagnant liquid. The liquid poured down and immediately enveloped the god of cooking's kitchen tools. Buzz, light flashed faintly. In a short while, the cracks and gaps in the sets were repaired. The law of transmigration was operating. In Bufang's eyes, he seemed to see a giant beast standing in the vast world, roaring. Under the nourishment of the law of transmigration, the gaps in the kitchen tools were repaired in an instant. On the dragon bone kitchen knife, the kitchen knife, which was full of cracks, was now unscathed. The vermilion robe was brand new, fluttering in the wind. The holes in the black turtle constellation wok were also repaired. The white tiger heaven stove, which had been broken in two, slowly healed. Boom! A series of rumbling sounds rang out. The god of cooking set was immediately wrapped in a warm light, hovering around Bu Fang's body. The corners of Bu Fang's mouth curved slightly as he looked at these sets with a nostalgic look. A familiar feeling washed over him, and Bu Fang heaved a sigh of relief. He raised his hand. The golden dragon bone kitchen knife shot over, hovering in Bu Fang's hand as it spun and twirled. Swish, the vermilion robe fluttered, wrapping Bu Fang's body. Then, it wrapped around his waist. The striped red and white vermilion robe made Bu Fang's aura more prominent. His palm stroked the black turtle constellation wok and the white tiger heaven stove. The familiar feeling made Bu Fang's sharp eyes slightly warm. The god of cooking set, it was back. Anyway, the set was back. But Bu Fang sighed. The artifact spirits had yet to return. If he wanted the artifact spirits to return, he would have to go to the so-called place where the artifact spirits slumbered and wake them up. Otherwise, the artifact spirits would probably be slumbering forever. He put away the god of cooking set. However, when Bu Fang wanted to put away the Qilin transmigration ladle, he found that he couldn't. Bu Fang froze. Unless it's the white tiger heaven stove, the other god of cooking sets can't be retrieved in their complete state. The Qilin's gentle voice rang out in Bu Fang's head. Ha 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 ha! Then, the Qilin's devilish laughter rang out. So that's how it is. Bu Fang looked at the ladle in his hand, feeling a headache coming on. Would he have to hold the ladle all the time? He put the ladle on his waist. The ribbon of the vermilion robe hung down, tying the ladle. It was quite suitable. However, the ladle on his waist looked a little strange. Would he have to carry the complete black turtle constellation wok on his back? It would affect his image. If he stood up straight in a battle, his enemies would laugh at him. Bu Fang rubbed his head. Then, he stopped thinking about it. Little host, you're actually not unfamiliar with the place where the weapon spirit hibernates. However, it will be an extremely dangerous place for little host. Many hosts have fallen there and never got up again, the Qilin said. His words made Bu Fang nervous all of a sudden. It seemed to be very scary. A familiar place? Could it be the Netherworld? Or the Heaven Chief Realm? Or the Hidden Dragon Continent? Bu Fang couldn't figure it out. After putting away the god of cooking sets, he walked out of the kitchen. The knot in his heart had been untied, and Bu Fang felt a little refreshed. The god of cooking sets had made Bu Fang's cooking skills more and more perfect. Oh! As soon as he walked out of the kitchen, all eyes were fixed on him. At some point, the restaurant was already full of people. Luo Sanyang, the Shy Crown Prince, the Titan Crown Prince, Yu, Hades Era, and the heads of other aristocratic families who had received the news had all gathered, filling up the restaurant. Everyone's eyes lit up when they saw Bu Fang. Bu Fang had returned from the Titan Divine Dynasty alive. This was an important piece of news. The Titan Divine Dynasty seemed to be isolated from the rest of the world. Whether it was the Xiai Divine Dynasty or the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty, all the spies they had planted in the Titan Divine Dynasty were wiped out. Therefore, the fact that Bu Fang could return alive from the Titan Divine Dynasty became more and more important. Of course, many people also learned that Bu Fang had abducted a crown prince from the Titan Divine Dynasty. They might get more information if they asked the crown prince. However, many people still focused on Bu Fang, because the crown prince didn't want to talk at all. Mr. Bu. Owner Bu. You're back. Owner Bu, is the Titan Divine Dynasty exciting? A group of people chattered, their hearts full of curiosity. Bu Fang didn't seem to expect that there were so many people in the restaurant. He furrowed his brows. Bu Fang glanced at the crowd, then asked them to leave. The restaurant was closed today, and he drove all the people out. Outside the restaurant, the heads of the aristocratic families who were driven out hesitated for a moment, then lined up again and waited in front of the restaurant. Bufang looked at the Titan Crown Prince. The latter looked hopefully at Bufang. "Do you want me to take you as an apprentice, chef?" "That's not impossible," Bufang said. The Titan Crown Prince opened his mouth, and his breathing suddenly stopped. "I want revenge," he said. The Titan Crown Prince asked. His request was very simple, but he knew very well how difficult it would be to fulfill it. Even the Divine Emperor's body had been taken over. For him, this was simply a nightmare. "There's no hurry." Bufang breathed a sigh of relief. Sooner or later, Bufang would get back at the Titan Divine Dynasty. Of course, he couldn't swallow this loss in vain. Bufang handed the Titan's heart to the Crown Prince. It belonged to the Crown Prince in the first place. The Crown Prince glanced at the Titan's heart, gritted his teeth, and pushed it back to Bufang. His meaning was clear. If Bufang needed the Titan's heart, the Crown Prince would give it to him as a gift. The Titan's heart was the Titan Divine Dynasty's divine artifact, but he had given it up. How much perseverance and hatred did he have to bear to do this? Of course, no one present knew that the ginseng in Bufang's hand was the legendary Titan's heart. The Titan Crown Prince stayed in the restaurant for the time being. The Shy Crown Prince and the Titan Crown Prince looked at each other. Since they were both Crown Princes, they naturally wanted to compete with each other. You sat next to Lord Go, cultivating. The Titan Crown Prince did not dare to act presumptuously in the restaurant. He found the restaurant mysterious and strange. Except for that narcissistic clown, who was a little weak, the others were extraordinary. Whether it was the black dog lying on the ground, the cold, long-haired beauty, or even the shy Crown Prince beside him, their auras were very strong. This little restaurant was not ordinary. The Shy Divine Dynasty was indeed full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Late at night, Bufang left the restaurant. He entered the palace. Since he had encountered the matter of the Titan Divine Dynasty, he naturally had to tell them. There was no need to hide such a thing. Bufang entered the palace. They talked all night. When the sky turned white, Bufang left the palace. The moment Bufang left the imperial palace, the Shy Divine Emperor issued an emergency summon. Hundreds of officials entered the court. The heads of the aristocratic families also entered the court solemnly. After the morning court, the whole Shy Divine Dynasty entered a state of war. A terrible news spread out of the Shy Divine Dynasty, shocking the whole dynasty. Disastrous news. The Titan Divine Dynasty has completely become a kingdom of soul demons, and the Titan Divine Emperor has fallen. The Titan Divine Dynasty, the whole Divine Dynasty was shrouded in darkness, and a dark aura pervaded the air, turning the world blood-red. Dilapidated buildings, dilapidated houses, and skeletons littered the ground. Among the skeletons, black balls were beating like hearts. Countless black balls covered the entire land of the Divine Dynasty. It was a shocking sight. In the starry sky outside the Titan Divine Dynasty, several bone warships that blotted out the sky were as huge as planets. Countless soul demons stood on the bone warship. Black smoke billowed into the sky, and a fierce aura towered into the sky. The insect scales on Soul 13's body were getting closer to silver, and the black light was getting lesser and lesser. He stood at the prow of the bone warship and glanced into the distance with his scarlet eyes. He grinned, and a terrible aura filled the air. That stinky chef has escaped. I'm afraid this chaotic universe will soon know that the Titan Divine Dynasty has become a kingdom of soul demons. In that case, instead of waiting to be besieged by them, it's better to strike first. While these stupid humans are not reacting, I'll give them a head-on blow. That damned chef won't be able to escape. Soul 13's back suddenly split open, and a pair of insect wings grew out with a cracking sound. Chapter 1558. The Titan divine dynasty had turned into a kingdom of soul demons? This news shocked the entire Chaosverse. Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard the news. Some even thought it was a joke. How could a divine dynasty with so many people turn into a kingdom of soul demons? Besides, although the Titan divine dynasty was slightly weaker among the three divine dynasties, it was, after all, a divine dynasty with many great worlds. How could it be destroyed so easily? Moreover, the Titan divine emperor had fallen? Why hadn't this news spread out? The Xiai divine emperor even sent the news to the immortal spirit divine dynasty's empress. He talked with her for a long time, but no one knew the content of their conversation. In short, the entire Xiai divine dynasty entered a state of war. All the aristocratic families had sent their experts to join the divine dynasty's army. Outside the divine dynasty, source stones were piled up one after another. A huge defensive formation was constructed, and as it activated, a loud rumbling sound could be heard. The great worlds under the Xiai divine dynasty's banner were also in a state of war. Moreover, the upper echelons of many great worlds had transferred their experts to the divine dynasty's capital. In just a few days, many outsiders came to the Xiai divine dynasty's capital. These outsiders were all experts from other great worlds. Every outsider had gone through a strict inspection. This was to prevent soul demons from disguising as humans and sneaking into the capital. The Dragon Valley was the Xiai divine dynasty's great world, and the Dragon Valley's upper echelons had also been transferred there. The Xiai divine dynasty had activated its nation-protecting array, so it was safe inside. This was also to preserve the seeds of the various great worlds. For a moment, the capital of the Xiai divine dynasty became very lively. All kinds of creatures could be seen everywhere. There were beings with dragon heads and human bodies walking with their hands clasped behind their back. There were people who were born with two arms talking. The situation suddenly became turbulent. Of course, no matter how turbulent the situation was, it had little impact on Bufang. He returned to his normal life. Cooking, opening the shop, closing the shop. The Titan Crown Prince had officially become the restaurant's apprentice. It had been a long time since Bufang had accepted an apprentice. This apprentice was the most powerful one out of all his apprentices. The Titan Crown Prince showed a strong interest in cooking. That kind of craziness surprised Bufang. Perhaps hatred had spurred the Titan Crown Prince's interest in cooking, but it was difficult for this interest to translate into his culinary skills. After all, learning how to cook was not something that could be done overnight. In the kitchen, wearing the chef robe provided by Bufang, the Crown Prince was cutting the vegetables in a flurry. Because of his high cultivation base, Bufang had high requirements for him. He chopped vegetables until he was on the verge of a mental breakdown. Bufang was very strict with the ingredients he cut out. The other side, Bufang was cooking expressionlessly. The black turtle constellation Wok and the white tiger heaven stove collided, and the sound of metal clanging rang out incessantly. Flames burst out from the black turtle constellation Wok, soaring into the sky. The flames surged, emitting a scorching heat and fragrance. Bufang held an ordinary spoon in his hand. That was the Qilin transmigration ladle. When he was cooking, the dish seemed to be covered with a mysterious coat. Moreover, Bufang's control over the dish in the wok had reached a very precise level. His divine sense could pass through the spatula and move around the dish in detail. The feeling the spatula gave Bufang was very clear. He shook the wok. The spatula and the black turtle constellation wok collided, making a clanging sound. The flames were also surging. The dishes tumbled, making sizzling sounds. On the stove, there was a clean blue and white porcelain plate. He shook the wok, and the steaming dishes fell into the spatula. With a flip of the spatula, the dishes were poured into the blue and white porcelain plate. The spatula was lifted, and the dishes bloomed like flowers. Steam surged, and a dense light spread. It was a beautiful scene. In the distance, the crown prince was dumbfounded. It turned out that cooking was really a skill. Bufang walked out of the kitchen with the dishes. Ding! The bell on the kitchen door curtain suddenly rang. The atmosphere in the restaurant was harmonious. Everyone was chatting, talking about the recent situation. Of course, it was very comfortable to eat delicious food while talking about the situation. In a seat, a plain-looking old man sat quietly. Bufang walked over and placed the dishes in front of him. The steaming hot air made the old man's eyes a little blurry. Bufang took out a jar of wine. It was the Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew. Of course, as Bufang's cooking level improved, the Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew had become extraordinary. Swish! The cool wine was poured into a cup. Bufang pushed the cup to the old man. "Try this wine. It tastes pretty good," Bufang said. The old man smiled gently, his face full of wrinkles. He picked up the wine cup and with a slurp, he poured all the wine into his mouth. "Good wine. Thank you for your praise, Your Majesty." Bufang's face was expressionless. He was already used to this kind of praise. Good wine, good food. It would be great if your restaurant could stay open in the Shui Divine Dynasty's capital. With such a leisurely life, perhaps I can live a leisurely life after I abdicate the throne in the future. The Shui Divine Emperor narrowed his eyes like crescent moons. He seemed to be reminiscing. "Unfortunately, the situation is beyond our control," the Shui Divine Emperor sighed. "The situation is beyond our control. Is the situation really so grim?" Bufang focused his eyes and glanced at the Divine Emperor. "The Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty has sent us a message. The Titan Soul Demons have surrounded several great worlds under its rule. After a fierce battle, all the great worlds of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty fell." The Divine Emperor took another sip of wine. For an old man like him, who had experienced the vicissitudes of life, a cup of wine was the taste of his life. He enjoyed the refreshing feeling of the wine in his throat. Bufang did not say anything. He had warned the Divine Emperor that those soul demons were very strong, especially Soul 13. This was especially true for Soul 13. Even Bufang, who had crushed the Divine Power Liquid Drop, could only fight him evenly. "It's okay. There are many experts in the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty. There's no need to worry. The Divine Emperor of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty is an empress, and her strength is not weaker than mine. Besides, there is more than one Emperor-level expert in the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty," the Divine Emperor said. "The Lord of Phoenix in the Phoenix Nest is also an Emperor-level expert." The Lord of Phoenix. Bufang's pupils constricted. The Dragon Valley of the Shui Divine Dynasty and the Phoenix Nest of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty. A long time ago, the Phoenix Nest belonged to the Shui Divine Dynasty's sphere of influence. Later, the Phoenix Nest was divided and belonged to the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty. Of course, the war now was not a war between the Divine Dynasties, but a war of survival for the living beings of the chaotic universe. The two Divine Dynasties would inevitably unite against a common enemy. The Divine Emperor tapped his finger on the table. He glanced at Bufang and pondered for a moment. "Those soul demons must know that you have returned and that their information has been exposed, so they have taken the initiative to attack. The army of soul demons should be approaching the Shui Divine Dynasty by now. They have split into two groups?" Bufang was stunned. "Those soul demons are really arrogant." "You can say that. Soul 13 did not appear in the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty's war. The Empress of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty has killed many numbered soul demons, but she failed to force him out. This means that Soul 13 should have come to the Shui Divine Dynasty," the Divine Emperor said. At the mention of this, his face became much more serious. "His target should be you." The Divine Emperor took a deep breath and drained the wine in his cup. "His target is me." Bufang narrowed his eyes. "Not only him, but also you." Soul 13 has been coveting my body and use for too long. Nethery's identity was not ordinary. As long as you completely fuse with that dead woman, you will be able to obtain the body of a heaven god. However, since the war in the Titan Divine Dynasty, Soul 13's main target may still be me. After all, he has comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe. This kind of talent is simply unparalleled. It's fine. Let him come. The corner of Bu Fang's mouth twitched slightly. After completing the task, his reward was not only a ladle but also a drop of the god of cooking's divine power liquid drop. If he met Soul 13 again, it was hard to say who would be the one torturing the other. Bu Fang drank a cup of wine, stood up, and said goodbye to the Divine Emperor. Then, he turned and stepped into the kitchen again. Lying under the path understanding tree, Lord Go raised his eyes slightly, glanced at the Divine Emperor, who was drinking and eating, and yawned. The Divine Emperor focused his eyes and glanced at Lord Go. His heart was cold. This dog is getting stronger and stronger. The pressure emanating from him makes him look like a dormant beast. Lord Go rested his paw on the heaven god's bone. The bone, which was covered with veins, had dimmed a lot at this moment. The energy in it seemed to be absorbed by Lord Go. Withdrawing his gaze, the Divine Emperor took a deep breath and continued to drink, savoring the rare silence. His favorite thing now was to hide his identity, come to Bu Fang's restaurant, drink, and eat. Rumble. All of a sudden, the moment the Divine Emperor picked up a dish with his chopsticks and stuffed it into his mouth, his eyes snapped open. The whole capital of the Divine Dynasty seemed to be shaking at this moment. Oh! What's happening? What's going on? Why is the capital shaking? Has the war begun? The experts in the capital were shocked and furious. Even the experts in the restaurant jerked their heads and looked at the huge array that blotted out the sky outside the capital. With the array, the invaders could not attack them. Impossible. How could those soul demons get so close to the capital so quickly? Have the battlefronts of the other great worlds been defeated? The Divine Emperor frowned. He rose to his feet. Light burst out of his body in an instant. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a dragon and sped out of the restaurant. Everyone was horrified. The Divine Emperor. It was actually the Divine Emperor. He was the Lord of the Divine Dynasty, a supreme existence. A group of people fell to their knees and bowed in the direction of the Divine Emperor's departure. Bam! 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 The Divine Dynasty's array was constantly being attacked. Ripples of energy spread across the sky. Rumble! A loud rumble rang out. Inside the capital, battle cries rang out. Generals after generals stretched across the sky. King Pingyang, clad in armor and riding a chariot, looked serious. He was exuding an aura of iron and blood. As a king of the Xiai Divine Dynasty, it was his duty to protect the dynasty. The thought of fighting on the battlefield again made his blood boil. Roar! Battle cries resounded in the sky. Outside the light screen, an expert covered in black barbaric glyphs and with scarlet eyes walked out of the void. The next moment, his body exploded. A white bone warship appeared in Xiao Chen's physical body, densely covering the sky. The ferocious bone spikes looked horrifying. In front of the bone warship, there were 3 black meatballs which were bulging. Suddenly, they exploded with a bang. Then, they turned into behemoths, blotting out the sky and blotting out the sun. Rumble! An oppressive dark aura filled the air as if black lightning was tearing everything apart. 1, 2, 3 behemoths opened their mouths and let out bestial roars that shook the whole Xiai Divine Dynasty's capital. The behemoths were extremely terrifying. Their backs were covered with thick scales, and their tails, claws, and foreheads were covered with spikes. Sitting cross-legged on their backs were Titan experts with barbaric glyphs all over their bodies. Their eyes were scarlet. On the warship, 2 experts from the Divine Temple stood against the wind. Their scarlet eyes were fixed on the prosperous capital under the array. A cold smile came to the corners of their mouths. Using a special method, they had brought the ancient soul demon beasts to the Xiai divine dynasty's capital in secret. Naturally, they were not here for an outing. They had to destroy the Xiai divine dynasty's capital in one fell swoop, or at least severely injure it. This would be a huge blow to the human army. Kill! The temple guardian roared. The huge savage beast roared. Its roar shattered the void, and then its huge barbed tail smashed down toward the Xiai divine dynasty's protective array. Chapter 1559. Ancient soul beasts were a kind of fearsome savage beasts bred by the soul demons. Each of them was as large as a star, extremely ferocious, and was born for war. Their strength was no weaker than that of a human high-grade god-king. They were war machines with great destructive power, and for a civilization, they were a destructive nightmare. Their tails, in particular, had barbs, which contained strange energy and specialized in destroying arrays. In war, they were an invincible defense-breaking weapon. Rumble! The three ancient beasts blotted out the sky and roared in the starry sky. Then, their barbed tails smashed down like huge hammers and smashed hard on the array. A rumbling sound rang out. The huge array that enveloped the Xiai divine dynasty's capital began to tremble violently at this moment. This array had cost hundreds of millions of source stones. Every time it was used to defend, it was burning money. However, even though it had cost hundreds of millions of source stones, it still seemed to be as fragile as a piece of paper. At the place where the hammer had struck, the barbed tail had sunk deep into the formation. Then, with a swipe of its tail, it tore a huge hole in the array. The hole could not be healed. Gradually, the three holes grew larger and larger. Finally, the entire array exploded with a bang. Everyone in the capital raised their heads and looked at the broken array. They felt a burst of dazzling light. Their eyes were filled with confusion. The broken array was emitting a colorful luster, which was quite dazzling. Meanwhile, in the capital, at the moment when the formation was broken, Yi Shiwen's eyes widened. The eyes of the soldiers and guards hovering in midair narrowed. Rumble! In the imperial palace, the Xiai divine emperor, clad in a military uniform, stepped out of the palace with a square jade seal in his hand. It was the divine emperor's seal, the divine artifact of the Xiai divine dynasty. Its power was terrifying, even more so than the phoenix plume. As soon as the divine emperor appeared, it was as if the backbone of the dynasty had appeared. All the soldiers perked up. Black armor and gold armor turned into two beams of light and stood guard at the divine emperor's side like two guardian divine generals. One of them held a knife, while the other held a sword. Knife energy and sword energy surged, each occupying half of the sky. The rainbow-colored light quickly dissipated. Then, what appeared was the army of soul demons. The bone warship and three colossal ancient beasts formed an army of soul demons that could shake anyone's heart. The roar was deafening, and a monstrous demonic aura instantly covered the sky. How dare a mere team destroy the capital of the Xiai divine dynasty? The Xiai divine emperor was clad in a military uniform, and his eyes were cold. Although he was old, his might was still there. In particular, after experiencing the Empyrean tribulation, he was recuperating. His current strength had already stabilized. He was not afraid of these soul demons. Boom! He flipped his hand. The divine emperor's seal instantly shot out. Under the control of the Xiai divine emperor's mental force, the divine emperor's seal soared up and spun in the sky, sprinkling down beams of heavy light. He wanted to crush a soul demon ancient beast in an instant. However, since these soul demons dared to break into the Xiai divine dynasty's capital so boldly, they naturally had something to rely on. It was impossible for them not to know the Xiai divine emperor's strength. Since he dared to show up despite knowing the Xiai divine emperor's strength, he must have a trump card. Buzz in the face of the divine emperor's seal, inside the bone ship, a whistling sound rang out. A hidden existence rushed up in an instant and let out a roar. It was also a savage beast, but compared to the soul demon ancient beast, which was as strong as a star, it was much smaller. It was about the size of an ordinary human. It shot out from the white bone ship at an extremely fast speed. It tore through the sky and instantly headed towards the Divine Emperor's seal that suppressed the heavens. It collided with the Divine Emperor's seal. A terrible rumbling sound rang out. The Divine Emperor's seal seemed to be on the verge of exploding, emitting a violent rumble of energy. In the sky, the Divine Emperor clasped his hands behind his back and frowned. "What's this?" A thought flashed through his mind. The Divine Emperor's seal flew back to him. Hovering in his hand, a corroded crack appeared on the surface of the Divine Emperor's seal, the divine artifact of the Xiai divine dynasty. The Divine Emperor's pupils constricted. The means of these soul demons were too strange. Humans are our food, and we have our own ways to deal with them. On the back of a giant beast, an expert covered in barbaric glyphs laughed out loud. His scarlet eyes became even more sinister as he let out a shrill cry. Immediately, one soul demon after another rushed out of the warship. Boom! The void distorted. A guardian covered in insect scales exuded a terrifying aura that seemed capable of destroying heaven and earth. He dashed forward. Then, he rushed toward the Xiai Divine Emperor. The Divine Emperor was furious. With a flick of his wrist, the Divine Emperor's seal flew out. However, the moment the Divine Emperor's seal appeared, the black ferocious beast charged forth once again and collided with the Divine Emperor's seal. It corroded the Divine Emperor's seal, causing the divine artifact to be unable to display its power. What kind of creature is this? The Xiai Divine Emperor took a deep breath. The temple guard closed in. His entire body was covered in insect scales, and the insect scales were covered with barbaric glyphs. Compared to when he was dealing with Bu Feng, the keeper of the temple was much stronger now. The Xiai Divine Emperor's eyes were bright. The power of the laws descended, causing his aura to rise steadily. Emperor Realm experts had their own strength. He pushed out his palm and collided with the temple guard. Bang! A collision ensued. The Divine Emperor's battle robe fluttered, and his momentum surged. He threw out a set of Divine Emperor fists and crushed the temple guard. As a top existence among the God Emperors, his strength was not something that anyone could underestimate. Even though he was past the end of his life, now that he was free of the calamity, the power he could exert was very amazing. It was still somewhat difficult for a temple guard to deal with the Divine Emperor. Although he could fight back, he was always at a disadvantage. However, the purpose of the soul demons who came this time was to seriously injure the Divine Emperor. If they could seriously injure him, they would have a great advantage in this war. Rumble! Inside the bone warship, another guardian of the temple appeared out of nowhere. The insect-scaled knife in his hand slashed down, and a terrible dark knife energy almost tore the sky apart. The Divine Emperor's eyes shone like torches as he threw out a punch fearlessly. Bam! 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 A violent explosion rang out, filling the air with rumbling sounds. The Divine Emperor and the two temple guards were locked in a fierce battle. Gold armor and black armor roared and charged forward, brandishing their knives and swords. "Kill them!" Their voices rang out. The guards of the Xiai divine dynasty, who stayed in the capital, immediately soared into the sky. One by one, they fearlessly charged toward the bone warship and the huge ancient beasts. The ancient beasts were simply too huge, and in a war, they were simply sharp weapons. With a sweep of their tails, they could kill a large number of experts. Many experts could not resist them at all. As soon as they touched them, they exploded into a mist of blood. Then, they opened their mouths and sucked human experts into their mouths like whales, turning them into food. Sitting on the backs of the giant beasts, the soul demons who controlled the savage beasts laughed excitedly. The smell of blood permeated their bodies and seemed to stimulate their blood, making them more and more excited. It should be noted that the soul demons had bred no more than 6 ancient beasts in the chaotic universe, and they had sent 3 of them to the Xiai divine dynasty's capital. It could be said that they attached great importance to the battle here. The Xiai divine dynasty's capital would definitely suffer a heavy blow. Gold Armor's eyes were cold. As a top high-grade god king of the divine dynasty, his strength was as fearsome as ever. Black Armor was slightly weaker, so he could only stay in the rear and guide the army. The war broke out without reservation. Although the ancient beasts were huge, it was precisely because of their size that the human experts could take advantage of the situation. The human expert leaped onto the beast's tail and sped all the way to the top of the beast. Their target was the soul demon who controlled the ancient beast. The soul demon knew that as well, but he still sneered disdainfully. The ancient beast swayed, and their scales suddenly flashed with a dark luster. In the void, the sword-wielding Golden Armor's pupils constricted. His golden armor seemed to dim under this luster. Rumble! All of a sudden, the scales on the enormous soul demon ancient beast's bodies trembled. Then, the experts who were running wildly on the ancient beasts felt their hair stand on end. Slash! Slash! Sharp bone spikes grew out from under their feet and pierced them from their feet to their head. A pitch-black aura filled the air. The humans who were pierced were instantly absorbed and turned into skeletons. Meanwhile, the ancient beasts began to grow stronger because of the nutrients they absorbed. Gold Armor's eyes turned red. How many human experts on the ancient beasts' backs died in an instant? Only mid-grade God King level existences could barely withstand it. However, even if they could not stop the soul demon's attack. These ancient beasts were really difficult to deal with. No wonder they were the soul demon's weapons of war. In the sky, on another battlefield, the Xiai Divine Emperor was fighting the 2 keepers. One keeper might not be a match for the Divine Emperor, but when 2 of them appeared at the same time, they were basically on par with the Xiai Divine Emperor. Soul 13 isn't here? I can't believe he's not here despite the great battle array. Could he be hiding in the dark, preparing to give me a fatal blow? The Xiai Divine Emperor threw out a punch as if to shatter the stars. His fist flashed and burst into bursts of divine light. The power of the law enveloped him, spinning and crushing everything. The temple guard was forced to retreat, but he still persisted in his pursuit. Rumbling filled the sky, accompanied by the roars of beasts and the sound of explosions. In the capital of the Xiai Divine Dynasty, the capital, which was usually bustling with activity, had long been desolate. Everyone was hiding in their houses, looking up at the battle in the sky, their bodies trembling. The Divine Emperor's blood that spilled from time to time seemed to be composing a lament. In the Luo family's skyscraper in the restaurant, Bu Fang wiped his palms and lifted the kitchen curtain. There were no longer any customers in the restaurant. Everyone seemed to have gone to pay attention to the battle. With his hands clasped behind his back, Bu Fang walked out slowly. He came to the door, stood there, and looked up at the sky outside. The Luo family's skyscraper was very tall. With Bu Fang's eyesight, he could even see the human experts being blown up and the splattering blood. At some point, you had floated behind Bu Fang. The Xiai Crown Prince clenched his fists, his eyes red. If it weren't for his identity as a waiter, he would have rushed into the sky and fought side by side with the Divine Emperor. Bu Fang glanced sideways at the Xiai Crown Prince, who was extremely excited. He took a deep breath. "Do you want to go? The enemy is already at my doorstep. As the Crown Prince, how can I not fight?" The Crown Prince clenched his fists, his blood boiling. Bu Fang nodded. He turned his head again. He was also very unhappy with the soul demons. He was almost killed in the Titan Divine Dynasty. "Then go," Bu Fang said. The Crown Prince's eyes burst into bright light. He gave Bu Fang a deep look, then bowed to Bu Fang. He felt that Bu Fang was already worthy of his respect. The next moment, He opened his mouth and let out a roar. With a flip of his hand, a dragon knife fell into it. He stepped on the skyscraper and was about to soar into the sky. However, just as he was about to rush into the sky, a fair palm suddenly pressed down on his shoulder. She pressed down on his body that was about to leap up. The crown prince was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. He turned his head and found that it was Bufang who had pressed him down. "Are you going to go like this? It's not that I want to say this, but with your strength you can't kill a few soul demons," Bufang said seriously. The shy crown prince looked confused. Then, in front of his confused eyes, with a shake of his hand, Bufang produced a bowl of stinky tofu with sauce. A strong stench instantly rushed into the crown prince's nostrils. His face instantly turned the color of feces. His eyes were full of resentment. "Is Bufang going to ask me to kill soul demons with stinky tofu? Are you crazy?" Chapter 1560. A bowl of stinky tofu. A pungent stench wafted through the air and rushed into his nostrils, making him feel as if his stomach was churning. It was a very disgusting feeling. Yes, disgusting. Is Bufang going to let me use this bowl of stinky tofu to disgust those soul demons to death? How is that possible? The ferocity of those soul demons is not something a bowl of stinky tofu can compare with. The crown prince wanted to refuse, but Bufang shoved the bowl of stinky tofu into his hand. Letting out a sigh, the crown prince felt that everything had become so dark and gloomy. "Go. I believe in you." Bufang shoved the stinky tofu into the crown prince's hand, then raised his hand, patted him on the shoulder, and encouraged him with a straight face. The crown prince rolled his eyes. Then, he soared into the sky. He held the dragon knife in one hand and the stinky tofu in the other. He soared into the sky, stepping on the void like a dragon emerging from the abyss. His aura was so strong that it was eye-catching. The shy crown prince had comprehended two supreme laws of the universe and had successfully become a god. His current cultivation base and fighting prowess were very formidable. The moment he joined the battlefield, he charged forward like a raging savage beast. His knife swept out, and his fighting spirit towered into the sky. In the Luo family's skyscraper, Bufang stood at the top of the skyscraper with his hands clasped behind his back. The wind was blowing. The sleeves of his vermilion robe were flapping noisily. As Bufang watched the crown prince soar into the sky like a dragon, the look in his eyes became extremely strange. You gave Bufang a puzzled look. She seemed to feel that there was something wrong with Bufang's expression. Hades' Era and the Titan Crown Prince came out one after another. Hades' Era glanced at them, yawned, and went back into the restaurant. As for the Titan Crown Prince, he clenched his fists, and his eyes were red. Soul demons. Those soul demons had occupied the fleshly bodies of the Titan Divine Dynasty's experts. This is the hatred of the destruction of a nation, and it cannot be washed away. The shy crown prince soared into the sky, expressing his thoughts more and more frankly. It was as if there was a surge of chi spreading from the soles of his feet to his entire body. His aura was incomparably powerful and terrifying. Holding the dragon saber swept out. Saber chi crisscrossed, and the law of destruction and the law of space superimposed at the same time, bursting out with superpower. With a sweep of the knife, several ordinary soul demons were killed. The more the crown prince killed, the happier he became. He felt that his mental state was about to sublimate. He was the crown prince, and he had to protect his homeland. He wanted to fight alongside the divine emperor. The crown prince held the smelly tofu in one hand and the dragon saber in the other. Towards the end, he even forgot that he was holding the stinky tofu, however. He hit and hit. He found it a little strange. He found that there were more and more soul demons around him. That's right. There were more and more of them. This feeling was a little strange. The pressure on the Crown Prince became very great because the number of soul demons had increased. Even with his strength, he felt a little heavy. Waving the dragon saber seemed to have become a lot more difficult. Boom! With just one move, he pushed back several soul demons. Those soul demons had scarlet eyes and saliva dripping from their mouth. They looked very disgusting, and the insect scales on their bodies glowed brilliantly. The Crown Prince felt a little strange. What the hell is going on? The more the Crown Prince fought, the stranger he felt. Buzz, the power of the law exploded out of him, and his body streaked across the sky like a shooting star. Behind him, roars rang out as one soul demon after another chased after him frantically. Moreover, as he moved, more and more soul demons joined the chase. What the F***CK? The Crown Prince's face turned black and he almost cursed. Although he wanted to fight, he did not want to die. Are all soul demons so shameless? Are they all ganging up on me? However, the many experts around him also had strange looks on their faces. They looked at the Crown Prince, who was being chased, in confusion. The soul demons who were fighting with them suddenly left the battle and joined the team chasing after the Crown Prince. Is the Crown Prince's charm so high? The Crown Prince's scalp went numb. He inadvertently turned his head and glanced behind him. When he saw the swarm of soul demons behind him, all his hair stood on end. Why are there more and more of them? The Crown Prince's heart skipped a beat, and he was almost scared to death. Anyone would be frightened by this scene. Suddenly, a rumbling sound rang out. The Crown Prince felt that the aura around him was enveloped by a strange energy. A terrible soul demon aura pressed down on him, causing his flying speed to slow down significantly. Damn it! It's a numbered soul demon. The Crown Prince's pupils constricted. If he were to fight a numbered soul demon now, he would definitely die. The gap between him and the numbered soul demon was too great. The eyes of the numbered soul demon, who was approaching the Crown Prince, turned scarlet. He roared at the Crown Prince, but before he could make a move, he was swept away by a sword light. Scram! Gold Armor descended and thrust out his sword. The sword turned into 10,000 swords, which shone brilliantly and forced the numbered soul demon back. At the same time, many of the soul demons behind the Crown Prince were seriously injured. Gold Armor's face grew much graver. Have these soul demons sensed the uniqueness of the Crown Prince's identity? Or have they seen through the Crown Prince's monstrous talent? I heard that soul demons like talented humans the most because they taste good. Has the Crown Prince become their target? Gold Armor frowned. He naturally could not let the Crown Prince become food for these soul demons. He was the Crown Prince of noble status. How could he be eaten by soul demons? Rumble! A wave of sword light rolled up. It turned into a dragon of sword energy and shot toward the numbered soul demons in the distance. Gold Armor wanted to use his cultivation base to forcibly attract those soul demons and make them change their target. Rumble! The numbered soul demons and Gold Armor fought again. However, the other soul demons, on the other hand, turned around and chased after the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince, who had breathed a sigh of relief, suddenly felt his hair stand on end. These fellows can actually see through my monstrous talent and recognize my noble status. I must hang in there. I must not fall into the hands of these soul demons. The Crown Prince roared. He suddenly felt the weight of the responsibility on his shoulders. Holding the stinky tofu in one hand and the dragon knife in the other, he moved quickly. He glanced at the stinky tofu in his hand with disgust in his eyes. If this stinky tofu had not been given to him by Bufang, he would have thrown it away on the spot. Boom! Boom! More than a dozen soul demons approached. They opened their mouths wide and drooled crazily. Every soul demon's eyes were red, bursting with infinite greed and desire. Their noses were twitching and they looked intoxicated. The Crown Prince retreated. With a slash of his knife, he turned into a roaring divine dragon and went straight toward those soul demons. However, he did not push them back. The Crown Prince gritted his teeth, stepped on the void, and began to flee frantically. He would not fall into the hands of these soul demons no matter what. He was the man who would inherit the throne in the future. In the distance, the Divine Emperor and the two keepers were locked in a fierce battle. The area tens of thousands of miles around their battlefield had become empty, and even the debris of the stars had been shattered into ashes. The sound of banging rang out incessantly. The Crown Prince felt that the divine power in him was about to run dry. It was a terrible feeling. He could not fly anymore. Some of the soul demons behind him were stronger than him, and some were weaker. However, there were too many of them. He could not hide. Am I going to die? Am I going to die before I can achieve anything? Am I going to be beaten to death by a group of soul demons? Why don't you fight me fair and square? The Crown Prince was furious. He put away the dragon knife. Holding the bowl of stinky tofu, he turned and glared at those soul demons. He roared. He wanted to force these soul demons back with his fearless aura. However, these soul demons did not seem to feel anything, and they were not forced by his aura at all. These soul demons, are they not afraid of death anymore? In order to kill me, you soul demons are really going all out. With my status, it's a loss to trade for one or two. At the very least, I have to kill all these soul demons. That way, everyone in the Shui Divine Dynasty will remember their gifted Crown Prince. The Crown Prince turned around. He let out a long roar. Then, he threw out the bowl of stinky tofu that he had been holding. I'm going to die, so why am I still holding the stinky tofu? Bufang's deterrence is useless against me. The Crown Prince's fist. The Crown Prince's eyes turned red in an instant. His aura skyrocketed, and he shot into the starry sky like a beam of light. It was magnificent and magnificent. He was resolute and determined to die. He wanted to fight to the death with these soul demons who had driven him to a dead end. He wanted to let these soul demons know that the Crown Prince was not someone they could chase casually. There was a price to pay for chasing the Crown Prince. Come on! The Crown Prince roared across the starry sky. He waved his fist. The eyes of the surrounding human experts were wet with tears, and some of them were frantically rushing toward the Crown Prince's position. The Crown Prince must not die. The Crown Prince is our faith. If the Crown Prince dies, the soul demons will have achieved their goal in this battle, and the morale of the Shui Divine Dynasty will be greatly affected. You must not. The human experts had tears in their eyes. They felt heartache for their resolute disciple. Once the Crown Prince, he will always be our Crown Prince. Boom! The Crown Prince roared and threw out his fist. However, the atmosphere became a little awkward for a moment. The bowl of stinky tofu he threw away fell apart. A strange stench wafted through the air and seemed to envelop the surrounding area. However, the stench at this moment could not compare to the determination in the Crown Prince's heart. He did not care about the stinky tofu at all. However, the soul demons who were chasing the Crown Prince, at this moment, they all changed their course and chased after the stinky tofu. The stinky tofu that fell apart, the stinky tofu that was fried black gold, and the stinky tofu that was covered in a strange sauce, it had become the greedy target of those soul demons. Bam! The Crown Prince's fist missed its target. The soul demons all took a detour. The Crown Prince froze in midair. Those ferocious soul demons who wanted to kill him were chasing after the stinky tofu at this moment. At this moment, the Crown Prince seemed to understand something. He remembered Bufang's encouraging words when he patted him on the shoulder. The Crown Prince felt a strong urge to vomit blood in his chest. I'm the Crown Prince of the Shui Divine Dynasty. Am I not as good as a bowl of stinky tofu? The Crown Prince's eyes turned red. The human experts, who thought the Crown Prince was dead, froze as well. So, Crown Prince, are you here to be funny? The human experts breathed a sigh of relief and changed their target again, heading toward the soul demons. As for the Crown Prince, he could do whatever he wanted. Their current mood was to kill the enemy. The Crown Prince felt a little heartache. Looking at the soul demons who were chasing after the stinky tofu behind him, he breathed a sigh of relief. He, the Crown Prince, was actually defeated by a bowl of stinky tofu that he despised so much. He, the Crown Prince, was no match for a bowl of stinky tofu that smelled like shit. These soul demons are looking down on me? The Crown Prince's eyes shone like torches. His anger surged, and his embarrassment turned into fighting spirit. His roar shattered the stars, and his figure shot forward. He charged toward the soul demons who were chasing after the stinky tofu. There were 10 stinky tofu in total. The sauce flew everywhere, and the strange stench filled the air. To humans, it was a foul smell, but to the soul demons, it was a rich fragrance. It was so fragrant that it made their legs weak, and they could not walk. A soul demon grabbed the stinky tofu, his face beaming with wild joy. Then, he grabbed the stinky tofu and stuffed it into his mouth. Slurp, the stinky tofu was crushed. The Crown Prince's hair stood on end as he watched. Bufang's food is indeed poisonous. It eats both humans and soul demons. Isn't it said that soul demons have a natural aversion to human food? Suddenly, the Crown Prince froze. He looked into the distance. The soul demons who had eaten the stinky tofu suddenly began to tremble violently. At the same time, a flame seemed to emerge from the soul demons' bodies. Then, the flames spread in an instant. The soul demons who had eaten the stinky tofu were burned to ashes. Only the Crown Prince saw this scene. The Crown Prince was shocked and dumbfounded. The soul demons who saw this could not resist the temptation of the stinky tofu at all. They knew that they would die if they ate it, but they still could not suppress their appetite and shoved it into their mouth. Rumble 10 stinky tofu, 10 soul demons who had eaten the stinky tofu, all of them were burned to ashes. The power of the stinky tofu was so terrifying. Chapter 1561. What's going on? The Crown Prince sucked in a cold breath and stared at the soul demons in the distance, who were being burned to death. The menacing soul demons who were chasing him were burned into nothingness in an instant. Is it so strong? Is there something wrong with the stinky tofu? He remembered the serious expression on Bufang's face when he stuffed the stinky tofu into his hand. The Crown Prince seemed to have discovered something extraordinary. This stinky tofu is the nemesis of soul demons. The Crown Prince was excited. In the distance, the soul demons were eating stinky tofu, but their bodies were slowly burning. A numbered soul demon snatched a piece of stinky tofu. After swallowing it, his body began to burn in flames. However, he was not completely burned to death like the other soul demons. His flesh was covered in flames. However, the numbered soul demon was very strong. He was able to resist the flames and did not turn into ashes like the other soul demons. This showed that although the effect of Bufang's stinky tofu was obvious, its suppression on the numbered soul demon was not as strong. He looked at the numbered soul demon, who was struggling and roaring. There was a price to pay for tasting delicious food. The Crown Prince roared, "I'll kill him while he's weak. If I don't make a move now, the Crown Prince, will be too stupid." Rumble! The Crown Prince moved. The dragon knife flashed brilliantly, leaving a long beam of light in the air as it shot into the distance. It moved extremely fast, heading straight for the numbered soul demon. The numbered soul demon's eyes turned blood-red. Although he was on the verge of death from the fire, he was still able to control himself. Although he was burning and dying, he was still fierce. "Damn human! Get lost!" The numbered soul demon roared. The Crown Prince's heart tightened. He was still under great pressure facing a numbered soul demon. If it were a perfect numbered soul demon, he would have to take a detour. However, this numbered soul demon was not perfect and was about to be burned to death. This was his chance. The knife slashed down with towering momentum. the Crown Prince charged toward the numbered soul demon. Even though the latter was seriously injured, he still felt a wave of pressure. A fierce battle broke out in an instant. Flames soared into the sky. The knife light swept across the whole battlefield. After a long time, the Crown Prince slashed the knife. A dragon roar soared into the sky, and a huge head rose into the sky, surrounded by black smoke. A black soul demon's true form was about to flee. However, the flames spread and burned the soul demon's true form into nothingness. The Crown Prince panted violently. His eyes widened. He watched the numbered soul demon die. He felt an indescribable excitement in his heart. Then, he clenched his fists and swung them at the sky. How exciting! He did not kill a numbered soul demon alone. However, the satisfaction in his heart made him extremely intoxicated. The death of a numbered soul demon was a great loss to the soul demon army. After all, the soul demons had only sent one bone ship this time in order to attack the enemy's base. Although there were many numbered soul demons, one dead meant one less. Suddenly, a terrifying explosion occurred. The terrifying explosion caused everything to tremble unceasingly. The Crown Prince's heart skipped a beat, and he turned his head to look into the distance. That was the battlefield between the Divine Emperor and the Guardian of the Temple. The resplendent splendor was like the explosion of a star, dazzling and eye-catching. The energy clamored and spread out unceasingly. The Crown Prince's eyes were slightly dull. Then, his pupils constricted. There, a figure flew backward and spat out a mouthful of blood. His blood glowed brilliantly under the starry sky. But it looked so miserable. The Shui Divine Emperor is truly fearsome. A monstrous plume of black smoke soared into the sky and turned into the shadow of a huge savage beast. It was the true form of a soul demon. The Divine Emperor's battle robe was torn, and there were some wounds on his body. His wrinkled face was trembling. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and breathed a long sigh of relief. The Divine Emperor's hands, which rested at his waist, kept shaking. He had been guarding against Soul 13, whom Bu Fong had mentioned. However, he never thought that Soul 13 would not show up, and instead, a soul demon, a keeper, would blow him up. The soul demon had protected his fleshly body and wounded him with the explosion. These soul demons were really ruthless. However, even if they lost their fleshly bodies, they still had fighting strength, which was the most terrifying thing about them. The remaining guardians sprang out and charged at the God Emperor. He was extremely fast, and the terrible impact he brought with him made the faces of the surrounding people flicker. Was the Divine Emperor going to be defeated? However, when the Keeper approached the Divine Emperor with his fleshly body intact, a look of horror came over his face. "You're crazy!" He let out a roar that did not stop. However, he was met with the Divine Emperor's cold and serious eyes. He raised the Divine Emperor's seal, which shone even brighter. As soon as the seal appeared, the savage beast that could destroy divine artifacts shot over, trying to repel it. However, the Divine Emperor didn't simply use the Divine Emperor's seal this time. Rumble! With a thought, the Divine Emperor's seal suddenly exploded. The energy inside was boiling like a volcano. In an instant, the surging energy devoured everything. Boom! The explosion of the divine artifact of the dynasty, the temple guard, was swallowed whole. Even the true form of the soul demon could not escape and was annihilated. Cough, cough, cough. The explosion seemed to destroy half of the galaxy. It was dazzling and blinding. The entire capital of the Divine Dynasty began to tremble under the shockwaves of the explosion. Cough, cough, cough. The Divine Emperor coughed up blood. His face was slightly pale. His expression was not optimistic. These soul demons were too terrifying. Soul 13, whom Bu Fong had mentioned, had not appeared yet. Just 2 top-numbered soul demons had seriously injured him and forced him to explode his divine artifact. Why didn't Soul 13 show up? The immortal spirit divine emperor said that there was no trace of him on the battlefield, so she guessed that he might have come here. But why isn't he here? Since Soul 13 is not here, then. The divine emperor covered his mouth with his hand, and his pupils constricted. Oh no! Boom! The explosion made the sky extremely dazzling. Bufang stood on the roof of the Luo family's skyscraper, looking at the battle in the starry sky. No one knew what he was thinking. Luo Sanyang had come to Bufang's side at some point. She looked anxious and afraid. The people of the Luo family had also joined the battle. The explosion made her more and more uneasy and frightened. It's okay. These soul demons can't be demons, Bufang said faintly. Looking at Bufang's back, Luo Sanyang seemed to be infected by his confidence. Rumble, suddenly, the whole capital of the Xiai divine dynasty was shaken, and people cried out in alarm. Everyone raised their heads and looked over in disbelief. Over there, a shadow that swept across heaven and earth slowly descended from the sky, emanating an extremely terrifying aura. It was the true form of a soul demon. It was twisted, ferocious, and as disgusting as ever. Wherever it passed, the temperature dropped sharply as if it was snowing and hailstones were falling. The soul demon's true form was very strong. It was the true form of the soul demon who had seriously injured the divine emperor by exploding himself first. And now, its target was Bufang. Damn chef. Die. Soul 13 had said that the chef had used a lot of energy and would be weakened for a long time. Once he survived that period of time, it would not be a good thing for the soul demons. Therefore, the keeper was determined to kill Bufang at all costs. While the chef was seriously injured. That was why they had gone straight to the Xiai divine dynasty's capital at all costs. The first was to seriously injure the Xiai divine emperor, and the second was to kill the chef. He had achieved the first goal. Although the price was much higher than he had expected, it was still within an acceptable range. As for the second goal, he was about to achieve it now. The people of the Xiai divine dynasty did not expect that this soul demon would turn and attack them. This was a numbered soul demon, a top-numbered soul demon, not much weaker than Soul 13. He was very strong. He could even be called an emperor-level existence. After all, he could fight against a divine emperor. A soul demon of this level was a nightmare for ordinary people. Even if he was left with only his true form, even a high-grade god king would die if he encountered him. The weather seemed to have changed. The temple guard continued to charge forward. His figure kept changing in midair. Sometimes he took the form of a savage beast, and sometimes he took the form of a human. He smashed down from the sky. He was heading toward the Luo family's skyscraper, and his goal was to kill Bufang. She felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave. Her whole body seemed to be frozen, and even her blood flow became very slow. Boom! Boom! Around the Luo family's skyscraper, one figure after another shot up into the sky. They wanted to stop this soul demon, who the divine emperor had placed in the vicinity to protect Bufang. They were determined to carry out the divine emperor's order. Rumble! However, in just an instant, those experts were sent flying away as if they were dry weeds and rotten wood. Their faces were pale, and they coughed up blood as they flew backward. The true form of this numbered soul demon was like a great demon, invisible and immaterial. Ordinary high-grade god kings were no match for him at all. The keeper's scarlet eyes flashed. He saw Bufang. Naturally, he recognized Bufang, the chef who came to the Titan divine dynasty and ran away unscathed. How could he forget him? This chef was also his target this time. We meet again. Damned stinky chef. If it weren't for you, the soul demons would have been able to develop longer, and this chaotic universe would have become the world of soul demons. The keeper growled. Then, he transformed into his human form and shot toward Bufang. The whole capital seemed to be enveloped in a layer of darkness. The surrounding houses kept exploding and completely collapsed under the Soul Demon's power. Only the Luo family's skyscraper remained standing. With his hands clasped behind his back, Bufang stood on the top floor of the Luo family's skyscraper. He looked indifferently at the Soul Demons who kept falling. He was very familiar. It was the Keeper. The latter's killing intent made Bufang slightly narrow his eyes. Bufang was a little stunned by what these Soul Demons were doing. He never thought that these Soul Demons would go to so much trouble to kill him. It seemed that they had realized how terrible Stinky Tofu was to them. Unfortunately, the Keeper had guessed too much wrong. If Soul 13 had come, Bufang would have been a little afraid. He was just a Keeper who had lost his fleshly body and was only left with his true form. In that case, what did Bufang have to fear now that he had all the God of Cooking sets? In fact, he, Bufang, did not even need to use the supreme laws of the universe. As for this Soul Demon, the corner of Bufang's mouth twitched slightly. Although the people around him were trembling under the pressure of the Soul Demon, but he was really sneering. Yu's ghostly green hair spread out, and her pupils turned ghostly green. She was about to strike. However, just as she was about to do so, she was stopped by Bufang. "Let me do it," Bufang said faintly. After saying that, under Nethery's astonished gaze, he removed the black ladle from his waist. One ladle is enough for this kind of trash. Chapter 1562. In the immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty, in the center of the vast galaxy of stars, there was a huge planet. It was enshrouded in dense immortal energy. This was the mother planet of the immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty, and it was also the location of its capital. Now, the planet, which was shrouded in immortal energy, was filled with a pitch-black aura, which was full of evil and sin and could corrode everything. In the starry sky, numerous bone warships could be seen flying out of them, and one expert after another who looked like the Titan Divine Dynasty shot toward the immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty's camp. These experts of the Titan Divine Dynasty were no longer the experts of the past. They were soul demons now. They were called evil creatures who represented evil. Terrifying ancient beasts of the soul demons hovered in the starry sky. Although they were huge and bloated, they were extremely terrible weapons of war. Every time they attacked and every sweep of their barbed tails, the warships of the immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty's camp would crumble. Countless gods fell in the starry sky. Divine blood floated in the starry sky, while the remains of gods, their skeletons, their wailing souls, and so on. War was always cruel, and it brought indelible wounds to people. The cries of phoenixes were loud and sweet. Flames soared into the sky. Then, fire phoenixes flew out of the immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty's camp, spreading their wings and waving their tails. The soul demons had ancient beasts, and the immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty also had phoenixes. Although the phoenixes were not as huge as the ancient beasts, they were numerous and well-trained. Whether it was the dark phoenixes, the flame phoenixes, or the life phoenixes, all kinds of phoenixes flew across the starry sky and wheeled around the ancient beast. The phoenix feathers on their bodies seemed to have turned into the sharpest arrows as they shot toward the ancient beasts down below. The Xiai Divine Dynasty had divine dragons, while the immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty had phoenixes. Their distribution was quite even, which gave them a great advantage against the ancient beast. The ancient beasts were as huge as stars, and the phoenix feathers smashed into them. Although the phoenix feathers caused a series of explosions when they hit them, they did not harm them in the slightest. Then, the ancient beast's barbed tails swept out and hit a phoenix, causing it to wail. Phoenix blood swept through the starry sky. Blood splashed everywhere, creating an incomparably miserable scene. However, the body of the phoenix, which had been smashed to pieces, suddenly burst into flames. A raging fire was burning. Phoenixes were known as the immortal bird. They were reborn from the ashes and fought the ancient beasts again. The battle of the immortal spirit divine dynasty was difficult and cruel. One god king after another rushed out of the immortal spirit divine dynasty to fight the soul demons. Sword light, saber light, spear light, staff shadow, the fluctuations from all kinds of weapons were about to set off earth-shattering wave. Boom! A black-haired woman in a golden battle robe swept across the sky. Every strike and every momentum caused the void to change. Strong. He was really too strong. This woman's strength was earth-shattering. She was the empress of the immortal spirit divine dynasty. Compared to the Xiai divine emperor, her only advantage was that she was young. It was the phoenix bow, the divine artifact of the immortal spirit divine dynasty. It was made of the phoenix bones of 999 ancient phoenixes, and its arrows were made of the heart feathers of phoenixes. Possessing supreme power, it was a sharp weapon used to kill soul demons. Each arrow killed a soul demon, making it difficult for the soul demons to reveal their true forms. The empress of the immortal spirit divine dynasty was the backbone of the dynasty. Although all the great worlds of the immortal spirit divine dynasty had turned into fierce battlefields, the center of the dynasty was the most tragic. This was because the main point of the soul demons' attack was here. The four great protectors of the immortal spirit divine dynasty were four top-grade god kings, and their slaughter terrified the soul demons. The empress's face was extremely cold. Facing the soul demons, she showed no mercy. She knew very well that those who were not of the same race would not be of the same mind. After all, this was a battle of life and death. In fact, if the Xiai divine dynasty had not informed the immortal spirit divine dynasty and asked them to make preparations in advance, they might have been caught off guard by the Titan divine dynasty, who had turned into soul demons. No one knew how these soul demons were born and how they multiplied into such a terrifying force. But, no matter what, the soul demons fed on humans and were their natural enemies. A war had to break out. Kill! Although she was the empress, her iron-blooded aura was no weaker than that of the Xiai divine emperor. Under her leadership, the momentum of the immortal spirit divine dynasty's army soared. Led by the four great protectors, they charged into the midst of the soul demons like a sharp sword and fought fiercely with them. Surprisingly, they seemed to be suppressing the soul demons. In the immortal spirit divine dynasty, in the imperial palace of the immortal spirit divine dynasty was even more luxurious. Built on a divine mountain, it was surrounded by dense mist and surrounded by immortal flowers and divine trees, making it look like a paradise. In the great hall of the imperial palace, a woman in armor sat cross-legged. She was the fifth protector of the immortal spirit divine dynasty, a top-grade god king. Although she wanted to go out and kill the enemies, she had a more important task. However, she had a more important task: to protect the crown princess of the immortal spirit divine dynasty. Yes, this was an order given to her by the empress to protect the crown princess at all costs. The crown princess's talent was world-shaking. Ever since the empress brought the crown princess back, the talent the crown princess showed had conquered all of them. The crown prince of the Xiai divine dynasty? He has comprehended two supreme laws of the universe? Haha! In front of the crown princess, he is just a weakling. I'm in the imperial palace. I won't be in danger. Go and help the empress. Inside the palace, the curtains were drawn and a graceful figure spoke from behind the curtains. Her voice was gentle and very pleasant to the ear. Imo, the fifth protector, opened her eyes, which were as sharp as knives. However, she shook her head. Her gaze pierced through the sky and looked straight at the battle in the starry sky. The immortal spirit empress frowned. The situation was good for the immortal spirit divine dynasty. Although the situation was good for the immortal spirit divine dynasty, she still did not dare to relax. There was a great crisis lingering in her mind. What exactly is it? Looking at the god kings and soul demons fighting fiercely, the empress's heart felt a little heavy. Suddenly, The pupils on the Empress's beautiful face constricted in an instant. No. Something must be wrong. Where's Soul 13? Where's the dangerous Soul 13 that old man Xia Yuhe mentioned? The Empress's heart skipped a beat. From beginning to end, Soul 13 had never shown up. This was very unreasonable. Could he have gone to Xia Yuhe's side? Just as the Empress was having mixed feelings, her mind flickered. She raised her slender hand. In front of her hand, there was a formation flickering with brilliance. Buzz, inside the array, an old, towering figure emerged. The Soul Demons have invaded the Xiaoyi Divine Dynasty's capital, but Soul 13 is not here. He's probably with you. Be careful. The Xiaoyi Divine Emperor's shadow emerged in the array. The Empress paused. Suddenly, a feeling of fear bloomed in her heart. She jerked her head up and looked into the distance. There, the void next to a protector who was fighting the soul demons was torn apart. An almost silver arm stretched out of it. It was a protector of a top-grade god king. The sense of crisis in his heart soared. A knife light swept out and slashed at the arm. The power of the law exploded all over the sky. However, the protector's powerful attack was unable to cut through the arm at all. Splurt! The silver arm pierced the female protector's body. Buzz! The protector let out a miserable howl. Her body shrank at a rate visible to the naked eye, and eventually, she turned into a pile of bones and shattered in the starry sky. A top-grade god king was killed in an instant. The Empress's eyes turned red. She knew that Soul 13 had appeared. A burst of cold laughter rang out. The next moment, in midair, Soul 13's figure slowly walked out. At this moment, he no longer looked like the Titan Divine Emperor. Silver wings grew out of his back, and his body was covered with scarlet patterns. His terrible aura seemed to be about to stir up a storm. Around him, there seemed to be a terrible aura swirling around him like a blade. Some of the god kings who were too close could not even resist. They were killed by the aura and turned into bloody foams. The momentum of the soul demon army soared. The ancient beasts swept their tails, and one phoenix after another let out miserable cries as they were crushed. The Empress of Immortal Spirit, Soul 13, glanced greedily at the Empress. Suddenly, he thought of something. His scarlet eyes turned and looked at the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty's home planet. It was as if he was looking through the stars and the palace. Greed exploded out of his eyes. Sitting cross-legged in the palace, Aimo felt a terrible pressure descend. She jerked up from the ground and straightened her body like a spear, trying to resist the aura. But soon, she coughed up a mouthful of blood and took a few steps back in horror. Unbelievable! Just a look is enough to make me vomit blood. What kind of terrible existence is this? Aimo! Quickly escort Her Highness out of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty. There's a teleportation array behind the palace. Activate it and take Her Highness to the Xiaoyi Divine Dynasty's capital. Remember, don't let Her Highness fall into the hands of the soul demons. Her Highness is the hope of mankind. Her Highness, who has comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe, is the ultimate hope of mankind. Quick! Escort Her Highness out of here. The anxious voice of the Immortal Spirit Empress rang in Amo's ears. Amo's pupils constricted. The Empress actually told me to retreat. Is the situation already so bad? She thought of the look that fell from the sky just now. Amo's heart was instantly shrouded in gloom. Without hesitation, she turned her head and looked behind the curtain. Her Highness! Let's go! The Empress let out a long cry. Her crown exploded, and her battle robe flapped noisily. The strength of a god emperor completely exploded out. Like a golden figure, she caused the spiritual energy in the starry sky to boil. In the distance, Soul 13 looked at her with a sneer. Silver light burst out of his body. He raised a hand and a dark purple ball of dark energy was gathering in his palm. The next moment, he raised his hand again. Then, He flicked his fingers, which looked like the claw of a savage beast. Suddenly, the dark purple ball tore through the void and shot towards the queen of the immortal spirit empress. Roar! The soul demon roared. His true form kept twisting and changing, and his scarlet eyes were bursting with extreme excitement. Heaven and earth changed colors. Even the void seemed to have frozen. In the Shui divine dynasty's capital, everyone was shivering, except for Bufang and Yu, who were facing the soul demon on the top of the Luo family's skyscraper. Yu looked at Bufang. Looking at Bufang, she removed the ladle from her waist. Is Bufang going to fight the soul demon with the ladle? Bufang's fighting style is always so unexpected. The soul demon pounced. Bufang breathed a sigh of relief. His vermilion robe flapped noisily. Then, with the ladle in one hand, he took a step forward. His body seemed to be walking on an invisible staircase, walking step by step toward the void. As everyone watched, he headed toward the soul demon. The soul demon's roar made everyone's heart palpitate. As everyone watched, Bufang grabbed the ladle and swung it at the soul demon. This was the first time they saw someone fight with a ladle. Even if you're a chef, you should at least use a kitchen knife. A kitchen knife is more lethal, isn't it? If you don't use a kitchen knife, you should use a wok. Why are you using a ladle? Are you kidding me? The crowd was a little puzzled. However, they could only watch. The keeper sneered as he watched Bufang wave a ladle at him. Sure enough, as Soul 13 had said, this stinky chef had run out of tricks. He could not believe that he was going to fight him with a ladle. He was the keeper, a soul demon who was only half a step away from becoming a soul overlord. How could a broken ladle knock him to death? Stinky chef, die! The soul demon roared, his voice shaking the sky. Outside the sky, the Xiai divine emperor clutched his chest, his pupils constricting. Many experts were also watching. It was too late for them to block the soul demon now. Bufang held the ladle in his hand and weighed it in his hand. This was the first time he used a ladle, and he hoped it would not disappoint him. After all, it was a complete god of cooking set. Rumble! The ladle swept out. It was simple and unadorned, with nothing special about it. Under the soul demon's monstrous power, the ladle seemed to be on the verge of breaking. Finally, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the ladle collided with the soul demon. The ladle, it landed lightly on the head of the soul demon's true form. There was no earth-shattering collision, no terrible storm. It was like a bubble, puff. The moment the keeper touched the ladle, he felt his vision blur. It was as if a colossal savage beast was opening its mouth at him. At that moment, he thought the end of the world had come. He thought he was facing a soul overlord. Then, like a bubble, it burst. The keeper's true form, which was approaching menacingly with an incomparably fierce killing intent, was smashed by the ladle. It was smashed by the ladle. All that was left was a black, bead-like ball of light, which was absorbed by the ladle. Bufang hovered in midair, his vermilion robe fluttering. Holding the ladle, Bufang looked at it with a strange expression. When he knocked the soul demon to pieces, Bufang's eyes widened. Bufang seemed to hear a burp. Did Qilin swallow that soul demon? He's indeed a mighty almighty expert. With a shake of his finger, the ladle began to spin. The corner of Bufang's mouth twitched slightly as he looked into the distance. With a ladle in hand, the world is mine. Chapter 1563. How could a ladle be so strong? Everyone was dumbfounded as they watched the soul demon disappear like a bubble. All of them had strange expressions on their faces. They didn't know what to say, mainly because this result was somewhat out of their expectations. The soul demon's power was so terrible that it caused heaven and earth to dim. However, before he could even land, he was smashed to death by Bufang's ladle. With a ladle in hand, the world is mine, how could he be so domineering? However, there was something strange about his words. If the ladle was replaced by a knife or a sword, no one would find it strange. But with a ladle their hearts did not waver, and they even wanted to laugh. Fiddling with the ladle, Bufang was very calm. Everything was under his control. The ladle was, after all, a complete god of cooking set. With Qilin guarding it, it was a piece of cake for him to deal with a soul demon. As the crowd's breathing became more and more rapid, Bufang slowly descended from the sky and landed on the top of the Luo family's skyscraper. He spun the ladle in his hand, then hung it on Bufang's waist again. You looked at Bufang with a strange expression. Sure enough, he's still the familiar Bufang. He can even unleash a great power with a ladle. The Xiaoyu Divine Emperor breathed a sigh of relief. All his worries about Bufang had disappeared. The war was still going on, but there should be no suspense about the outcome of the next battle. After all, with 2 top-numbered soul demons gone, the Divine Emperors would not cause too much trouble for the remaining soul demons. The soul demons did not send too many troops to the Xiaoyu Divine Dynasty. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. The body of the Divine Emperor, who was seriously injured by a soul demon's self-explosion, had begun to slowly recover. After all, he was a Divine Emperor, so his recovery ability was naturally strong. The ancient beasts lay across the starry sky. The faces of the soul demons controlling them flickered when they saw the fall of 2 top-numbered soul demons. The old Xiaoyu Divine Emperor had seriously injured his opponents with the self-explosion of a top soul demon. The first mission was considered completed for the time being. But the second mission, which was to seriously injure the chef, had failed. Was that chef so awesome? Retreat! The soul demon's scarlet eyes flashed, and a strange fluctuation spread out. He wanted the soul demons to retreat. However, the Xiaoyu Divine Emperor would not let these soul demons retreat so easily. At the very least, he had to kill 3 ancient beasts. In the future, when they fought against the soul demons, it would be better to have 1 less of them. The Divine Emperor stepped into the air. Although he had lost the Divine Emperor seal, his battle intent did not weaken at all. He punched out, and behind him, there seemed to be an indomitable giant figure. The figure deduced a fist technique and punched out, seeming to shake the galaxy. Then, he flew toward a huge ancient soul demon. Ancient soul beasts were powerful weapons of war, but they were still not as powerful as god emperors. Bang! The Divine Emperor's punch shattered the beast's tail, causing green blood to gush out and splatter across the starry sky. The ancient soul demon roared and whimpered in pain. Without the slightest hesitation, the soul demon on his back let out a long howl and left. The Divine Emperor's eyes were sharp as he punched again and again. In the blink of an eye, he smashed the huge ancient beast into pieces. Just like that, a soul demon that was as huge as a planet was smashed to pieces and fell from the starry sky. Its huge body lay on the ground, lifeless and turning into cosmic dust. The Divine Emperor's eyes were sharp. He kept charging and killing. The morale of the Divine Dynasty's experts soared. Without a doubt, they had won this war. The soul demons retreated. They fled into the depths of the starry sky in a sorry state. The bone warship was shattered, and the ancient beast was captured. The Divine Dynasty's experts, who had won a great victory, brandished their weapons in the starry sky and roared. The Divine Dynasty will win. The Xiaoyu Divine Emperor radiated a dazzling light. He was the backbone of everyone. Rumble! The experts returned to the starry sky one after another. The ancient beast was captured, and so were the savage beasts that could destroy divine artifacts. When the Divine Dynasty's experts returned from the starry sky with the huge ancient beast in their hands, the whole Divine Dynasty burst into deafening cheers. To them, they were lucky to have won the war. They dared not to imagine what would happen to them if they lost the war. The ancient beast was simply too huge. It was imprisoned in a spatial prison by a god-king expert who was good at the law of space. This kind of war beast was definitely a nightmare for mankind. On the top floor of the Luo family's skyscraper, Bufang couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth as he watched the Xiai Divine Dynasty's experts return triumphantly. He clasped his hands behind his back and turned around. However, as soon as he did, he froze. The Titan Crown Prince looked at the cheering Xiai residents with a complicated expression, his heart filled with mixed feelings. He, too, wished he could see the Titan Divine Dynasty's experts cheering like this. Unfortunately, there was no chance for that. The Titan Divine Dynasty was destroyed, and it had become a thing of the past. However, he was still very happy to see the Xiai Divine Dynasty's experts win the war. The Titan Crown Prince wiped away the tears at the corner of his eyes and let out a deep breath. The Xiai Crown Prince descended. He looked at Bufang in bewilderment. He was a King Crown Prince, yet he was defeated by a bowl of stinky tofu. He wanted to ask Bufang about it now. However, Bufang didn't tell him too much. The stinky tofu was a special dish he had developed after his return to deal with these soul demons. He shook his hand. A bowl of stinky tofu appeared again, and he handed it to the Xiai Crown Prince. "Don't ask. Just eat it," Bufang said. The Crown Prince's face froze, and he looked at Bufang in confusion. His eyes widened, and they seemed to be talking to him. "Why is this thing so stinky? I'm a noble person, so why would I eat it?" A few moments later, "What the *CK? It smells so good. The texture doesn't match the taste at all. I get it. The more delicious something is, the more nightmare it is for soul demons. So that's how it is. Owner Boo, you really are a genius." The Crown Prince squatted in a corner of the roof with a bowl of stinky tofu in his hand, eating happily. His mouth was covered with grease. The Titan Crown Prince had recovered from his melancholy. He gave the Xiai Crown Prince a disgusted look, who said he didn't want the stinky tofu but was eating happily. "I can't believe this shameless guy is actually a Crown Prince. Owner Boo, can you mass-produce it? When the soul demons attack, we can use this stinky tofu to give them a head-on blow and let them know why stinky tofu is so smelly," said the Crown Prince. He had finished the bowl of stinky tofu. He ate it cleanly, leaving not even a bit of residue behind. "Mass-produce it?" Bufang paused. He glanced at the Crown Prince and said, "You can come to the restaurant to buy it. Tomorrow, the restaurant will launch a new dish, stinky tofu." The Crown Prince's eyes lit up in an instant. Then, he shot into the distance with the bowl in his hand. He needed to tell his father about this news. At that time, he would organize all the experts of the Divine Dynasty to come to Owner Boo's place to buy stinky tofu. In the face of the soul demons, they would completely crush them. Bufang's face turned a little black as he watched the Xiai Crown Prince disappear into the distance. This guy, why didn't he leave the bowl behind? Does the bowl cost nothing? In the Divine Dynasty's imperial palace, the Xiai Divine Emperor's face was pale. The soul demons had achieved their goal in this battle. They had seriously wounded him. Of course, for the soul demons, it was also a terrible defeat and loss. The number of ancient beasts was limited, and losing 3 at once was a huge blow to the soul demons. Sitting on the throne, the Xiai Divine Emperor tapped his finger on it. He was waiting for news from the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty. There was no doubt that the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty's battlefield was absolutely tragic. Earlier, he had told the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty about Soul 13. But halfway through, the news came to an abrupt halt. This worried him a little. Once the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty fell, the Xiai Divine Dynasty would be the only line of defense left in the entire chaotic universe. And after devouring the entire Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty, the soul demon's power would become unimaginably strong. The Xiai Divine Emperor sighed. At this moment, the Xiai Crown Prince flew into the palace. He landed in the palace and told the Divine Emperor the news he had received from Bufang. It was definitely good news that the Divine Emperor had the means to deal with the soul demons. When the Crown Prince handed the shy Divine Emperor a bowl that emitted a foul smell, the Divine Emperor almost slapped him to death. Fortunately, the Crown Prince explained in time. Only then did the Divine Emperor believe him skeptically. After all, the Crown Prince could not deceive him with such a thing. Very good. Pass down my order. All experts in the capital are to go to Owner Boo's restaurant to buy stinky tofu, the Divine Emperor said. With the Divine Emperor's order, it was easy to imagine how popular Bu Fang's restaurant would become. Bu Fang's turnover would certainly increase tremendously as well. After all, this was an official recommendation. Once the Divine Emperor's order appeared, the Crown Prince also showed a look of joy. Stinky tofu might not have a great impact on numbered soul demons, but at least it had an impact on them. It was definitely a sharp weapon for those below numbered soul demons. If a bowl of stinky tofu was thrown out, all the soul demons would be incinerated. What a pity for that delicious stinky tofu! The Crown Prince stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. He was hesitating whether he should buy a few bowls first and eat to his heart's content. Suddenly, the Divine Emperor's expression changed. The Crown Prince paused and looked at the Divine Emperor doubtfully. There, the Divine Emperor's pupils constricted. With a thought in his mind, he raised his hand and waved it. An array immediately emerged in front of him. The array rotated and a message came out of it. It was an array to contact the immortal spirit Divine Dynasty. The Xiai Divine Emperor had waited for so long, and finally there was a message. He wondered what the outcome of the war would be. The Crown Prince recovered from the delicious taste of the stinky tofu and turned to look at the array. The immortal spirit Divine Dynasty? I wonder what good news it will bring. Buzz, the array rotated. A bright light soared into the sky. Then, it projected a broken scene. Broken fences, broken walls, broken bricks, drifting bones, flowing God's blood. The Crown Prince sucked in a cold breath, and a look of horror came into his eyes. The Xiai Divine Emperor's face was very serious. Suddenly, a palm stained with blood appeared in the scene. The palm was slender and beautiful, and there was no doubt that it belonged to a woman. However, the appearance of the hand made the Xiai Divine Emperor and the Crown Prince's hearts skip a beat. The scene spun. Finally, a pale, bloodless face was revealed. It was a woman with disheveled hair and a very sorry figure. The Empress of Immortal Spirit. Both the Xiai Divine Emperor and the Crown Prince recognized her. At this moment, the Empress looked extremely pitiful. Cough, cough, cough. The Empress coughed up blood. Her phoenix cry bow had been broken in two. Her battle robe was also torn, revealing her fair skin. However, the alluring scene made the Xiai father and son unable to have any romantic thoughts. Because this scene represented a cruel reality, the immortal spirit, Divine Dynasty, is finished. The Empress coughed up blood and said, her eyes filled with grief and despair. Soul 13 is about to evolve into a heaven god. The only hope of the chaotic universe is Xiai. The Empress coughed up blood with every sentence she spoke. Behind her, rumbling filled the air as countless experts of the immortal spirit Divine Dynasty were turned into skeletons and devoured by the soul demons. Their miserable howls filled the ears. Suddenly, the Empress perked up as if she was recovering her strength before death. I've arranged for the Crown Princess of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty to go to the Xiai Divine Dynasty. You must save her. She is the hope of mankind and the chaotic universe. The Empress of the Immortal Spirit Empress grasped the formation with hope, her eyes shining brightly. Rumble! Suddenly, a silver beast claw slammed down. With a slapping sound, it grabbed the Empress's head. He slowly lifted up the Queen of Immortal Spirit. Everything in the array began to blur. Reinforcements? It's useless. Soon, the Xiai Divine Dynasty will follow in the footsteps of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty. A cold voice rang out. The pupils of the Shui father and son constricted. A face appeared in the image of the formation. It was a silver face covered with silver insect scales and scarlet barbaric glyph. The outline of the Titan Divine Emperor's face could still be vaguely seen. The terrible aura emanating from it almost suffocated the two of them. Soul 13. The Shui father and son sucked in their breath. The Empress was struggling in the image. The next moment, she let out a determined roar, and her body exploded. The image on the formation shuddered for a moment before disappearing. There was a sad look in the Shui Divine Emperor's eyes. His body trembled as he took a few steps back and sat down on the throne. He felt much older in an instant. The immortal spirit Divine Dynasty has fallen. The Crown Prince's body trembled violently. The look in Soul 13's eyes made him feel as if he had fallen into an ice cave. How could he defeat an existence like that? Tell Gold Armor to search the nearby teleportation arrays. We must bring the Crown Princess of the immortal spirit Divine Dynasty back to the Divine Dynasty unscathed, the Divine Emperor said wearily. Outside the palace, Gold Armor took the order, turned into a beam of golden light, and sped away with the Gold Armor guards. In the Luo family's skyscraper in the restaurant on the top floor, sitting in a recliner, he narrowed his eyes and looked up at the bleeding sky, exhaling slightly. Just as he was about to fall asleep, Bu Fang's eyes snapped open. The system's solemn voice resounded in his mind. Chapter 1564. The system's serious voice rang out in Bu Fang's head. It made Bu Fang's eyes, which were about to close, open slightly. Oh! Bu Fang seemed a little puzzled. He did not expect the system to speak at this time. Attention, host. A temporary task has been issued. Please help the Crown Princess of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty escape from the Soul Demon's pursuit. Temporary task reward. 1 God of Cooking's Divine Power Liquid Drop. The system said seriously. That gave Bu Fang pause. His eyes, which had been closed, were wide open. The temporary task issued by the system this time was very interesting. The mission this time was actually to save someone? Unfortunately, the reward was not a fruit of law. He was 1 fruit of law away from comprehending the 5th supreme law of the universe, and then he would be perfect. The Crown Princess of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty? Why is she being hunted by soul demons? How could the Empress of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty allow her Crown Princess to be hunted? Suddenly, Bu Fang seemed to think of something. He straightened his body, which had been lying lazily, and sucked in a cold breath. Could it be unless the Empress of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty could no longer protect the Crown Princess, she would not be hunted? Buzz, buzz, buzz. Just as Bu Fang was pondering, suddenly, the sound of something piercing through the air rang out from the sky. Bu Fang frowned. He looked up at Gold Armor, who was shooting across the sky. Gold Armor seemed to sense Bu Fang's gaze, so he looked over and nodded at Bu Fang. The next moment, he did not linger for long. Instead, he led the army and continued to shoot into the distance. It seems that something terrible has happened. What is it? Bu Fang narrowed his eyes. He no longer had the mood to rest. The Titan Crown Prince had returned to the restaurant to practice his cooking skills. His hatred of the soul demons had all turned into motivation for him to practice cooking. Yu, on the other hand, was walking lazily. Lord Go was lying under the Path Understanding tree, exuding a profound aura as he breathed. Meanwhile, Hades Era was chatting with Luo Sanyang's best friends in the restaurant. The current Hades Era was known as the Friend of Women. He was a good friend of the noblewomen in the capital. Bu Fang stood up, and Yu's gaze immediately fell on him. She seemed to have discovered something different about Bu Fang. Yu's eyes lit up. Where are you going? Bring me along. Yu said. Bu Fang was stunned and hesitated whether he should bring it along. Yu blinked. Then, with a shake of her hand, a pitch-black netherworld ship appeared. The underworld ship has been repaired. Where do you want to go? I'll take you there, Nethery said seriously. She was one of the people who owned ship. Staying in the restaurant was really boring. I really want to find something exciting to do. Looking at Yu's determined look, Bufang's mouth twitched. Looking at the repaired netherworld ship, Bufang nodded slightly. You had asked Hades' Era to contact his noblewomen friends in the Divine Dynasty and ask the best warship designers to upgrade and improve it. The current netherworld ship could be considered a top-grade warship. Not only was its interior luxurious, but its power was also extraordinary. Perhaps this was all that Hades' Era could do. Bufang thought about the system's mission. Saving the crown princess should not be too troublesome. In that case, he would let you go with him. After getting Bufang's approval, Yu narrowed her eyes. She leaped up and jumped onto the netherworld ship. Little Hu jumped off Bufang's shoulder and landed on the netherworld ship, jumping up and down. There's no hurry. Let me make a few bowls of stinky tofu first, Bufang said faintly, looking at Yu, who could not wait any longer. After saying that, he turned and walked toward the kitchen. The atmosphere in the Xiaoyi Divine Dynasty had changed. It had obviously become a little tense and sharp. Soldiers could be seen flying in the sky, and everyone's eyes were full of vigilance. The Xiaoyi Divine Emperor had strengthened the security, which puzzled everyone. After all, he had just won a great victory, and he should not be in such a mood. His attitude made people feel as if he had not won a great victory, but had suffered a great defeat. The crowd's puzzlement did not stop the Divine Emperor from giving out his order. All the aristocratic families moved out and turned into a defensive force to protect the capital. The Divine Emperor's order was also given out. Buy Bufang's stinky tofu from the restaurant tomorrow. The order puzzled many people, but when the Crown Prince announced the effect of stinky tofu, the whole Divine Dynasty boiled over. It was the nemesis of the soul demons. This made many people very excited. It was good news for everyone that they could find a way to restrain the soul demons. For a moment, many aristocratic families in the Divine Dynasty were in a frenzy. Everyone sent their experts to the restaurant to buy stinky tofu. The restaurant was not open yet, but the queue was already very long. Not only the aristocratic families, but some ordinary experts also went to the restaurant. After all, one could buy stinky tofu as long as they had source stones. The threshold was very low. Many people wanted to try the stinky tofu that could restrain the soul demons. Of course, some people thought this behavior was ridiculous. Stinky tofu could restrain the soul demons? Could they kill the soul demons with the stench of stinky tofu? Many people snorted. They did not take the Divine Emperor's order seriously. However, most people were still eager to take action. After all, they did not think the Divine Emperor would deceive them. In the Dragon Valley, at this moment, the Dragon Valley had already turned into a battlefield. Dragon corpses floated in the starry sky. There were also the corpses of 5-clawed divine dragons. 5-clawed divine dragons were the top existences among the dragons, and their strength was no weaker than that of high-grade god kings. The whole great world was exuding a miserable aura. The Dragon Valley had fallen. The upper echelons of the dragons had retreated to the other great worlds, and even many experts in the Dragon Valley had moved to the capital of the Xiaoyi Divine Dynasty to avoid being wiped out by the soul demons. At the entrance of the Dragon Valley, the void was twisting. The light of an array was surging. In the next moment, 2 figures rapidly flew out from the formation. Amo's face was pale. There was a look of determination in her eyes. She took the Crown Princess's hand and guarded her. Although she was sad, she told herself that she needed to be strong. The Crown Princess still needed her to protect her. Crown Princess, let's go. We'll be safe when we reach the capital of the Xiaoyi Divine Dynasty. Imo suppressed the grief in her heart. The Empress had asked her to take the Crown Princess and flee. What did this mean? It meant that the immortal spirit divine dynasty might not be able to withstand the soul demon's attack. The crown princess, wearing a veil, nodded obediently. She had always been very obedient. Whether it was the empress or the ministers of the divine dynasty, they all liked her very much. It was just that she might be a little too weak. This was not a good thing. Imo glanced at the soft crown princess and sighed inwardly. Can a crown princess with such a temperament really carry the hope of mankind? She felt a little uncertain. But the crown princess's talent is really amazing. In a short time, she has comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe. It's like she's using a cheat code. Is she the chosen one? I really envy her for comprehending the supreme laws of the universe as easily as drinking water. Rumble! Imo's aura enveloped the crown princess. With a wave of her hand, an ancient warship immediately appeared. The warship streaked across the sky and sped toward the Xiai divine dynasty's capital. This was the Dragon Valley, but it had still fallen. It was still very dangerous for them. The dragon corpses floating around them and the dark aura that pervaded the air made Imo's heart sink. All these made Imo's heart sink. The dragons, a major clan in the chaotic universe that was not weaker than the phoenix nest, had fallen into such a miserable state. Even the Dragon Valley had been destroyed. The soul demons were really a disaster. At this moment, Imo suddenly felt sad and angry. She knew there were heaven gods in the chaotic universe, but why hadn't they appeared after such a disaster? What were those lofty heaven gods, who represented the ultimate supreme laws of the universe, doing? The Dragon Valley had been destroyed. It was a scene of devastation, with broken buildings, dragon corpses, drifting dragon blood, and cracked dragon scales. Everything was miserable. However, Imo did not dare to stop. Buzz, suddenly, the Dragon Valley down below abruptly exploded. A pitch-black dragon flew out of it at high speed. It had 5 claws, and its scales gleamed with a black luster. Its eyes were scarlet, and it looked like the expert of the Titan divine dynasty who had been possessed. A dragon-type soul demon. Imo breathed heavily. Her divine sense surged as she steered the warship and began to move at high speed. She did not dare to continue fighting because she could already feel a crisis looming over them. Behind them, the soul demons were chasing them. The crown princess had comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe, and for soul demons, she was simply a delicacy and a great tonic. How could she dare to stop? Roar! A dragon roar rang out. Its scarlet eyes were bursting with ferocity. Black dragon breath spewed out of its mouth toward the warship. The warship was rocked by the breath, and even the defensive arrays outside were corroded. Imo caught a glimpse of the soul demon dragon's claws. It had 5 claws, and it was a 5-clawed divine dragon whose body had been possessed. It was comparable to a top-grade god king. As a protector of the immortal spirit divine dynasty, Imo also possessed the strength of a top-grade god king. Her fighting prowess was no weaker than this 5-clawed divine dragon, but she did not dare to continue fighting. A ripping sound rang out. The warship moved, drifted, and dodged the dragon breath in all kinds of ways. Half of the divine dragon's body was sealed in the Dragon Valley. It kept struggling. The already dilapidated Dragon Valley began to churn. Roar! The divine dragon roared and kept slapping its claws down, cracking the ground as it struggled out of it. Saliva dripped from its mouth as it stared at the warship with great greed and desire. It smelled delicious food. Sweat broke out on Imo's forehead. Bam! A dragon claw slapped down. The warship was immediately slapped, and half of the warship collapsed. The warship began to lose control in the air, and it continuously spun. Imo's face was pale. The next moment she gritted her teeth. She pulled the crown princess out of the warship and was about to abandon it. Roar! One dragon after another flew out of the Dragon Valley, shrouded in black smoke. They were all soul demon dragons. Soul demon dragons that had just been born. Damn it! Imo flew into a rage. She pulled the crown princess, unleashed her boundless aura, and shot into the distance, trying to escape. However, the void was torn apart. In front of them, a bone warship tore through the void and appeared, blocking their way. On the bone warship, soul demons stood coldly, staring at them with scarlet eyes. A terrible aura pervaded the air. The soul demons grinned hideously. Imo pulled the crown princess, feeling somewhat desperate as they were surrounded. Before them was a numbered soul demon. Behind them was a 5-clawed soul demon dragon. This is a hopeless situation. Imo's heart was trembling. She was a little sad that she could not protect the crown princess. She had failed the empress. The crown princess, who was wearing a veil, seemed to feel Imo's grief. She reached out a hand and gently patted Imo on the shoulder, comforting her. What a good crown princess! It's a pity that she will become food for these soul demons. Imo's heart ached. Roar! A cold dragon roar rang out, assaulting their eardrums. The crown princess's body was trembling slightly. She seemed to know her fate. She sighed. From the moment she was discovered by the Empress to the moment she became the brightest genius in the chaotic universe, she felt like she was dreaming. Although the Empress had always said that she was the most exceptional genius, she knew that she was not. There was someone in this world who was even more exceptional than her. It was a pity that she had not seen him for a long time. Perhaps she would die here today. It was a pity that she would not be able to see him again. On the bone warship, the soul demons sneered, looking greedily and coldly at the two people who were surrounded. They liked to feel the despair of humans. Kill them! Leave that veiled woman alive! Lord Soul Overlord wants her. A numbered soul demon said greedily from the bone warship. Yes, they had already called Soul 13 Soul Overlord. Although he had not yet advanced to the Soul Overlord realm, he was only a hair's breadth away from it. Roar! The soul demon dragon roared, and its claws fell in an instant. The numbered soul demon unleashed a burst of black smoke and shot over like a bolt of black lightning. Imo roared. Her aura was rising steadily. She could not sit still and wait for death. Fight! Rumble! Their auras collided and energy surged. Imo collided with several numbered soul demons and the soul demon dragon, and her body was instantly torn apart. Her body burst open everywhere, and blood flowed everywhere. She was seriously injured with just one blow. She wanted to carve out a path of blood, but now it seemed impossible. She landed back at the crown princess's side. Blood was trickling from the corner of her mouth, and her body was torn and bleeding. Your Highness, I'm sorry. Imo closed her eyes in despair. The soul demons grinned hideously. The soul demon dragon roared as well. Then it flew toward the crown princess and Imo. The crown princess sighed, patted Imo on the shoulder, and closed her eyes. Suddenly, a creaking sound rang out. The void in front of them was torn apart. Then, a black warship slowly sailed out of it. At the prow of the ship stood a beautiful green-haired woman in a black dress. On her shoulder was a little fox with fur as white as snow, its 9 tails wagging slowly. Next to the woman was a thin man. A thin man slowly walked out of the cabin, looking as if he had not woken up yet. The crown princess seemed to sense something. She opened her eyes and looked at him in confusion. Her eyes were instantly attracted by the netherworld ship. She opened her mouth wide. Chapter 1565. The Crown Princess had comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe. She wanted to join the battle and help Imo, but she knew very well that even though she had comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe, she could not fight a top-numbered soul demon. If she joined the battle, she would only be a burden to Imo, who would have to protect her. Besides, there were so many titled soul demons present, including a soul demon dragon. With her demigod's strength, there was no way she could defy the heavens. Imo had already given up all hope. The crown princess sighed as well. None of them thought there would be any miracle. Would the Xiaoyi Divine Dynasty's army come to their rescue? Perhaps, but the latter could not have sensed them so soon and discovered them as soon as they arrived at the Xiaoyi Divine Dynasty's territory. So, by the time they arrived, Imo and the Crown Princess would have been torn to pieces by the soul demons. However, a pitch-black ship appeared out of thin air. It was a surprise to Imo and the Crown Princess. Imo was fine. The Crown Princess's jaw dropped as she looked at the figure walking out of the black warship. Even through the veil, Imo could sense Crown Princess's shock. Could it be an acquaintance of the Crown Princess? Could they be saved? Imo clutched her chest and coughed up blood. She suddenly felt a surge of excitement. Had the reinforcements arrived? The surrounding numbered soul demons also fixed their eyes on the black warship. The huge soul demon dragon, with half of its body still deep in the Dragon Valley, roared at the Netherworld ship. The dragon's roar rang out incessantly. On the Netherworld ship, Little Who jumped up and down and landed on the deck. His fur stood on end, and he bared his teeth and roared at the soul demon dragon. Of course, to the soul demon dragon, this Little Who was just the size of a fart. Naturally, he was ignored. Bufang walked lazily out of the ship. He saw the seriously injured Imo and the Crown Princess, and his eyes rested on the Crown Princess for a few seconds. The latter was wearing a veil, so Bufang did not recognize her, although he seemed to feel a sense of déjà vu from her. However, it was just déjà vu. Bufang turned his eyes from the Crown Princess to the soul demon dragon. A five-clawed divine dragon possessed by a soul demon? Bufang's eyes flashed. Had the Dragon Valley been invaded by soul demons as well? These soul demons really came in a menacing manner. I wonder if the flesh of the divine dragon will undergo any strange changes after the soul demons occupy it? Bufang rubbed his chin, thinking about the feasibility of cooking. In the distance, Imo saw Bufang. He sensed Bufang's aura. Imo's face instantly turned ghastly pale, and the wisp of hope that had arisen in her heart shattered with a bang. Demigod? This fellow who walked out of the black warship was only a demigod. Were the people on this boat just lost sheep and not the miracle that saved them? Imo was so desperate that she found it hard to breathe. She couldn't see through Yu's aura, but it wasn't very strong. It shouldn't be much stronger than that man. Such a combination did not give them any hope. Imo raised her hand and took Lady's soft hand, and then she closed her eyes. His face was covered in blood, and his body was in tatters. She had resigned herself to her fate. It's him. The Crown Princess put away her surprise, and a complicated look appeared in her eyes as she stammered out the words. Her voice made Imo, who had closed her eyes, open them. Imo, we're saved. She breathed a sigh of relief. That gave Imo pause. Saved my ass. She turned to look at Lady. Is she scared out of her wits? Can a demigod really save us? However, when she saw the complicated look in Lady's eyes, as well as the determination in them, Imo was a little confused. Why does Lady trust that warship so much? She has never trusted me so much. Bufang yawned. Those numbered soul demons naturally noticed Bufang as well. In fact, Bufang was a celebrity among the soul demons. Alone, he had gone deep into the soul demon's lair, destroyed the divine Titan temple, snatched the Titan's heart, survived Soul 13's attack, escaped unscathed, and took away a delicious crown prince. So, as soon as Bufang appeared, the eyes of the surrounding numbered soul demons lit up. Their scarlet eyes burst into thousands of dazzling lights. It's that chef. I can't believe the chef that Soul 13 has been longing for is here to die. I didn't expect there to be such a pleasant surprise. If we capture this chef, Soul 13 will definitely value us more. The surrounding numbered soul demons were in an uproar. Of course, the huge soul demon dragon did not feel anything. After all, the soul demon divine dragon did not recognize him. Soul 15, Soul 17, you two deal with that chef. Leave the crown princess here to me, Soul 16. Make it quick. Don't attract the attention of the people of the Xiaoyi divine dynasty. Soul 16 said coldly. They were the early numbered soul demons, and their strength was extremely formidable. The two numbered soul demons around them sneered. Then, their black insect scales flashed, and they spun and sped toward the netherworld ship where Bufang and you were. Their speed was as fast as lightning, and their strength was comparable to that of a top-grade god king. Amo's face turned pale. Sure enough, these soul demons will not spare the people on this warship. All of them must die. Buzz, Soul 16's face became very ferocious. His body turned into a mad demon, and a black aura gushed out of him, blotting out the starry sky as he rushed toward Amo and the crown princess. A terrible murderous aura swept across heaven and earth. Amo closed her eyes in despair and clenched the crown princess's hand. Soul 16 enjoyed the despair of humans very much. Humans were the food of the soul demons, so they should show such emotions in the face of soul demons. This was the fate of humans. His sharp claws swept out, shattering the void inch by inch. Imo could already feel the sharpness approaching her. I'm going to die. The crown princess's eyes widened. Her eyes were very beautiful and big, like pure gems, so pure that no one could bear to profane them. She stared at the descending claws with a look of anticipation in her eyes. She never thought that she would meet that man here. Now that he was here, a miracle must be on their side. Hope? What are you hoping for? Stupid human! Soul 16 roared. His scarlet eyes tore through the starry sky like two beams of light. Then, the claws fell hard. Boom! Boom! The terrifying aura caused some of the star fragments in the surroundings to explode and shatter. Suddenly, in front of Soul 16, the void was torn open. The power of the law of space surged. A skinny figure had walked out of the crack at some point in time. Soul 16's pupils constricted. It was that chef. In the distance, in the direction of the netherworld ship, Soul 15 and Soul 17 were approaching. Yu's eyes burst with green light, and a ghostly green light wrapped around her. After fusing with the power of the ancient female corpse, Yu's strength is now very fearsome. The cursed snake rushed up, coiled around her body, and slithered over her body. The next moment, the ghostly green light burst into a dazzling light. The cursed snake rushed to the top, opened its mouth, and revealed its ferocious fangs. Hiss! 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 It roared at Soul 15 and Soul 17. In the blink of an eye, the cursed snake rushed out and fought with the two numbered soul demons. It was a terrifying scene. I can't believe you can fight them alone. Both Soul 15 and Soul 17 felt a chill. A cursed goddess. Their scarlet eyes narrowed. They naturally knew the identity of the cursed goddess. The power of curses was a very terrible force to soul demons. It would corrode their bodies and power. Therefore, they did not dare to touch it. For a moment, you had actually entangled the two numbered soul demons. However, Imo did not have time to pay attention to the scene here, because at this moment, her gaze fell on the space in front of her. Bufang was wearing a striped red and white vermilion robe. He was hovering quietly in the starry sky. He was standing in front of them. His frail body was standing in front of them. For some reason, Imo felt a little relieved. She felt a little relieved from a demigod. This feeling was King weird. She was a supreme god king, the protector of the immortal spirit divine dynasty. Soul 16 was approaching. It's good that this chef is here. Let's die together. Soul 13 had said that the chef had used up all his trump cards and means. This time, the chef was going to die. The black smoke turned into a ferocious beast, roaring as it rushed toward Bufang. Run! Imo could not help but tremble when she sensed the power. The crown princess's heart tightened, and there was a look of worry in her pure eyes. Things were no longer what they used to be. Could that man still create miracles as usual? With a strange expression, Bufang turned his head and glanced at Imo, who was shouting at him to run. He raised his hand. The vermilion robe fluttered. Bufang picked up the ladle at his waist. It was time for the Qilin transmigration ladle, the complete god of cooking set, to show its true power. Soul 16 roared. He was confident that this chef could not stop him. If he killed this chef, he would become a meritorious servant. Once Soul 13 became a soul overlord, he would become the target of Soul 13's attention, and Soul 13 might even help him become the second soul overlord. In his eyes, everything seemed to become very beautiful. He was getting closer, very close. The chef was putting up a desperate struggle. The chef took out a ladle. He was getting closer. He was waving the ladle. He's courting death. Soul 16's heart fluctuated violently. Oh! Suddenly, Soul 16's pupils constricted. Looking at the pitch-black ladle, his heart skipped a beat. It was as if there was a terrifying existence lying dormant in that ladle. It made him feel inexplicably uneasy. However, when he thought of Soul 13's words, Soul 16 became confident again. Then, he threw out a claw and collided with the ladle. The next moment, a dazzling light burst forth. Soul 16 could feel the horror of the ladle. The ladle smashed down. The black smoke on his body exploded, and the insect scales on his body kept breaking. He collapsed at the first touch. This was completely different from the script he had thought of. It was as if that ladle contained a great terror. The ladle seemed to contain great terror. Bam! The Soul 16's claw broke. The ladle continued to smash down. Soul 16's mind went blank as he heard the deafening sound of a bell ring. Dong! His head buzzed. Everything in front of him was spinning. Bam! Soul 16 flew backward. When Imo saw Bufang take out a ladle to deal with the soul demon, she felt that this man was really stupid. Hopelessly stupid. A mere demigod actually used a ladle to fight against a numbered soul demon? Could that ladle break the sky with a single scoop? In fact, the man didn't even respond to her warning. She had kindly reminded him, but this man was indifferent. Wait a minute, this man will definitely despair. Imo coughed up blood. She became more and more desperate. She did not expect that the man she had been waiting for was actually a retard. However, the crown princess's eyes lit up. She looked like the moon in the night, extremely bright. She was pleasantly surprised and shocked. What happened? Subconsciously, Imo looked over her shoulder. Perhaps it was the man who had smashed the numbered soul demon's head with a ladle. The scene of the numbered soul demon's head swollen and sending him flying backward. I can't believe he didn't die with a ladle. A faint voice of surprise rang through the void. It lingered in Imo's ears. This caused Imo's face, which was already filled with shock, to freeze completely. Chapter 1566. It was as if he had farted. In a flash, it reached its peak. Nethery and the two soul demons were locked in a fierce battle. Rumble! But when it came to life and death, the soul demons scattered quickly. Wasn't it said that the crown prince who comprehended 2 supreme laws was already a top-notch genius? This was the first time he had met someone who comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe. After all, Bufang had killed the keeper in the Titan Divine Dynasty. Bam! Therefore, many soul demons were very wary of Bufang and did not dare to underestimate him. He grabbed the stinky tofu and stuffed it into his mouth. Before long, it was burned to ashes and dissipated in the void. Although that top genius was now working as a waiter in his restaurant, the ladle smashed down. The crown princess's heart skipped a beat, and a look of worry appeared in her big watery eyes. Then, she opened her mouth and let out a deafening roar, heading straight for them. Imo and the crown princess widened their eyes. They fled frantically, trying to get out of the position where they could confront Bufang. Without hesitation, Soul 16 scattered as soon as he touched the ladle. Rumble! Many soul demons already had the same idea. Then, he smashed the ladle down at the back of the soul demon's head. Who the hell is this guy? The moment the ladle collided, Soul 16's expression changed. Bam! 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 It was powerful enough to shatter a star. Bufang was not in a hurry to strike. Until the moment he died, Soul 16 could not figure out how he was killed. It was really the misfortune of these soul demons to meet Qilin. The power of that ladle was so amazing. How could those soul demons resist such temptation? Her body moved, and the aura on her body continued to rise. If Soul 13 were here, he might have a headache. But now that he had the ladle, he was not afraid of ordinary numbered soul demons. There were many soul demons on the bone ship. They were not as strong as numbered soul demons, but they were not weak. The stinky tofu in the bowl burst into a dazzling light. The power in Amo's body surged and she struck out with her palm, wanting to block this move. Before Bufang could activate the ladle in his hand, a strange black light flashed. Just by looking at the ruins of the Dragon Valley below, one could tell that these soul demons were really evil. Without hesitation, Bufang glanced indifferently at the soul demon, who had fled into the distance in an instant, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Bufang waved his hand. Sure enough, that man, as always, was good at creating miracles. It swept out. Bufang could only think of this. After all, the fact that Bufang had killed Soul 16 with a single ladle had shocked them too much. Didn't Soul 13 say that this chef has no more trump cards? Suddenly, he should have been the one to crush this human demigod to death. Invisibly, they heard the Qilin boss burp again. This, the demigod chef, had killed a numbered soul demon with a ladle. Soul 16 felt as if he was being stared at by a supreme existence. It grabbed at the stinky tofu like a madman. However, right now they were trembling in fear. Imo and the Crown Princess, who were watching the battle, shuddered. Soul 16 flew backward, crushing the void. Then, he flipped over and landed in the starry sky. Her 4 supreme laws of the universe seemed somewhat fragile. Bufang did not expect that this soul demon would dare to come again. Imo sucked in a breath of cold air, and looked at Bufang fervently. The energy patterns on his body kept flashing and covering him. Is the ladle the soul demon's nemesis? Soul 16's eyes widened. He unleashed the law of space, and took a step forward. A collision broke out in an instant. He had fought with all his might, but he could not defeat a chef with a ladle. Looking at his face, Bufang froze. They could not resist the aroma at all. How is this possible? A demigod just knocked a numbered soul demon away with a ladle? They steered the bone ship and planned to flee into the distance. When I become a soul overlord, I'll come back to find trouble with this stinking chef. In the distance, the Qilin transmigration ladle flew back into his hand. Bufang fiddled with the Qilin transmigration ladle. Killing a numbered soul demon was like taking a sip of water. In fact, Bufang was quite famous among the soul demons. After all, when Bufang broke into the Titan Divine Dynasty alone and broke into the Soul Demon Kingdom, he had killed many soul demons. There were not many soul demons on the bone ship, but it was clear that Bufang did not want them to escape. It was not easy for them to grow from black balls of soul demon flesh to their current level. How many humans had they devoured to achieve their current cultivation base and strength? Bam! That was beating them to death while they were still alive. With a loud bang, the ladle exploded in midair. Bufang paused. With just one strike, he lunged at Bufang. Imo felt that her worldview had collapsed. Bufang had a strange look on his face. The true form of a soul demon? The ladle was once again thrown out in an ordinary manner. Imo was not dead. After all, she had the cultivation base of a high-grade god king, so the wounds on her body had healed. So, Bufang's mind flickered. Soul 16's eyes burst into a dazzling light. A rumble rang out. Imo! The crown princess was wearing a veil, but it could not hide her bright eyes. Imo resisted the urge to curse. However, she could not believe that she was knocked flying away by a chef with a ladle. The terrifying dragon roar seemed like it was going to roar through the starry sky, blasting apart the starry sky. Like a great demon, it flew as fast as lightning and arrived in the blink of an eye. Amo's expression flickered, and her aura kept rising. A puffing sound rang out. Soul 16's true form exploded in an instant. Soul 16 decided to try again. Soul 15 and Soul 17 were fighting madly. A numbered soul demon who made the 3 divine dynasties tremble with fear, had fallen here. It must be a coincidence. The memories in the depths of his mind surged. F*CKU. Now. I just want to run. He gathered all his strength and rushed toward the ladle. Soul 13 had clearly said that this chef had used up all his trump cards and was very weak. The 4 supreme laws of the universe immediately wheeled around her. Bufang pinched the ladle with 2 fingers and rotated it, causing the ladle to spin like a windmill. Her originally fair and translucent face also turned deathly pale in an instant. His intuition was right. This chef had the ability to kill him. There was definitely a great terror in this ladle. He was going to grow into a soul overlord in the future. In fact, even without the ladle, Bufang might have been able to kill the numbered soul demon. The high-grade God King's body exploded, and the soul demon's true form flew out and fled into the distance like a madman. Rumble! How could she explain the scene in front of her? However, what Bufang did shocked her the most. The next moment, he moved. Oh, I don't want to die. I really don't want to die. The law of life, the law of time, the law of destruction, the law of space. A dragon tail swept over like a whip lashing at the starry sky. Then, its aura rose steadily. Imo was dumbfounded, and her body was trembling slightly. Bufang twitched his mouth as he watched the bone ship sail away. Trying to run? But the crown princess shuddered and coughed up a mouthful of blood. The next moment, she found that the soul demon dragon had crawled out of the sealed dragon valley at some point. The soul demons did not have any mission in mind. They submitted to Soul 13 because of his strength. They acknowledged his strength, so they worked for him. Even the crown princess beside him, who had comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe, could barely contend with an ordinary high-grade god king. As soon as the fragrance wafted out, the soul demons who were about to flee became restless. Roar! Bufang's expression grew stranger and stranger. Now that you had the upper hand, Bufang could basically guess what would happen to these soul demons. The blood-stained veil fell off the crown princess's face and floated in the air. The temptation emanating from the cursed goddess's body made them unable to restrain themselves. His eyes were a little confused, and a huge bump swelled up on his forehead. It was as if he was cooking a dish, and had just begun to sprinkle seasoning on it. However, he was not afraid. The crown princess's talent was amazing, but she was clearly not good at fighting. Soul 16's body exploded. A terrible dragon aura spread in an instant. Finally, Bufang grabbed the handle of the wok. He turned his eyes and rested them on the huge soul demon dragon and the bone ship in the distance. Bufang looked in that direction. The bowl of stinky tofu shot out of his hand. Then, it shot into the distance. His face trembled like a sieve. It was not fancy at all. The two collided. Bufang watched carefully. He jerked his head around. Run! Then, he transformed into a 4-sided wheel of law, trying to help Imo block the attack of the dragon tail. Bufang, who was watching the soul demons explode like fireworks after eating stinky tofu, frowned. He turned his head and saw the crown princess unleashing her power of law. It was too terrifying. It smashed into Soul 16's true form. He naturally could not bear to die. The crown princess stared at Bufang with bright eyes. Bufang had knocked him flying away with the ladle, and the insect scales on his claws were all broken. This was a great blow and stimulation to him. Rumble! A dragon roar rang out. The strength of the temple keeper was much stronger than that of Soul 16. Amo's expression flickered, and she coughed up a mouthful of blood as she was knocked flying away by the dragon tail. This chef's tricks are always unexpected. A ladle, stinky tofu, these things that should not have appeared in a battle had appeared. Yes, I'm not mistaken. However, the probability of her defeating a numbered soul demon by a fluke is very small. Of course, the fact that she, a demigod, could resist the blow of a soul demon dragon, which is close to the level of a god emperor, is extraordinary enough. Perhaps, in the face of this five-clawed divine dragon, a soul demon who is close to the level of a god emperor. He glanced at Soul 16, who had vanished into thin air. A sad and moving face appeared in front of Bufang. However, the demigod in front of him was so heaven-defying. Bufang frantically retreated behind him. In the distance, Yu was crushing the two soul demons and had gained a clear advantage. Then, like a pillar holding up the sky, she smashed down from below. Rumble! In the distance, he had even killed a soul demon who was a keeper of the temple. This time 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 supreme laws of the universe? Bufang breathed a sigh of relief. In the distance, in a flash, he tore through the sky and appeared behind Soul 16, who was fleeing. He placed the ladle on his wrist and spun it around, looking quite gorgeous. Then, the dispersing black energy was devoured by the ladle like a whale. Like a shooting star, it shot out in all directions. It felt as if he had been stripped naked and exposed in front of the supreme existence. A bowl of stinky tofu appeared in his hand. A strong stench wafted through the air and spread in an instant. In an instant, the mighty energy emanating from the soul demon's true form completely disappeared. Xiao Xiaolong's sister? Let me try again. If something goes wrong, I'll run away immediately. The wind blew and fluttered the crown princess's veil, making it seem as if it was about to fly away. Soul 16 was a clever man. Although he wanted to please Soul 13, he did not want to lose his life. Yu fought excitedly. Ever since she fused with the power of the ancient female corpse, Yu had never fought to her heart's content. This time, she had a good time. Imo murmured. She wanted to make sure if all this was a fluke. She froze. Chapter 1567. The veil that fell revealed a miserable face. There was no doubt that she was beautiful, but that kind of miserable beauty added a touch of classical charm to her. Bufang was slightly taken aback by the familiar face. Xiao Xiaolong, my sister. Yes, this was the crown princess who had comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe, the woman who had been hidden by the immortal spirit divine dynasty for a long time, the woman known as the hope of all mankind. It was none other than Bufang's old acquaintance. Xiao Yinyu. It was a name that had been around for a long time. If it were not for Bufang's good memory, he might not have remembered it. Xiao Yinyu was a very gentle woman with a weak and stubborn personality. Bufang never thought that he would meet her here. It was really magical. Roar. The soul demon dragon roared. A terrible aura rushed into the sky, and the stars seemed to be on the verge of scattering. It was extremely terrifying. Amo's face was ashen. A soul demon dragon that had completely broken free of the Dragon Valley's seal was almost comparable to a god emperor. How could she and the crown princess resist such an existence? Moreover, the crown princess was seriously injured while trying to protect her. How was she going to explain this to the immortal spirit empress? The blood-stained veil fell, drifting in the starry sky with a sad look on her face. Xiao Yinyu's eyes were slightly dazed. Her wheel of law was crumbling inch by inch. Clearly, resisting the dragon's blow had exhausted all her strength. She was not Bufang, who could ascend to the heavens with just a few laws. Although she had comprehended 4 supreme laws, she did not have a freakish spirit like Bufang. Buzz, Xiao Yinyu's body was almost broken like a withered flower. Bufang furrowed his brows slightly. With a thought in his mind, he sped away. The dragon's huge eyes turned scarlet. Its mouth was wide open, and it no longer had the majesty of the Dragon Emperor. All that was left was terrifying ferocity. Its sharp teeth burst forth as it opened its mouth, trying to swallow Xiao Yanyu in one gulp. A human genius who had comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe was a rare delicacy to a soul demon. It was so delicious. He could not miss it. Rumble. However, a thin figure appeared in front of him. With a loud rumble, the soul demon divine dragon's body came to a halt. He felt a tremendous force stopping him from moving forward. Bufang raised his Taotai arm and pressed it against the dragon's nose. In front of the divine dragon, Bufang was as small as a speck of dust. However, it was this tiny speck of dust that stopped the soul demon dragon from moving forward. Roar, the divine dragon roared. That severely injured human genius was about to fall into his mouth. How could he miss it just like that? Scram! With a roar, the dragon tried to blow away Bufang, who was standing in his way. The vermilion robe fluttered as Bufang slapped the divine dragon's nose with one hand, making it difficult for the divine dragon to move. Imo steadied his body, stepped on the air, and hovered over Xiao Yenyu's heavily injured body. "Your Highness! Why are you doing this?" Amo's expression was extremely complicated as she sighed. She had asked the hope of all mankind to block the attack for her. She was really sinful. However, what shocked him even more was, it was the chef. He raised his head and looked into the distance. With one hand, Bufang pressed against the soul demon divine dragon's nose, making it unable to move forward or retreat. Having lost its delicious food, the dragon immediately vented its anger on Bufang. A roar rang out. Black dragon breath poured out of its mouth, trying to burn Bufang to ashes in an instant. That was a dragon monarch. The Dragon Valley had long declined, was no longer as good as the immortal spirit divine dynasty's Phoenix Nest, and the Dragon Emperor was not as good as the Lord of Phoenix. However, he was, after all, a half-emperor-level existence. How could this demigod resist it with his bare hands? How did he do it? Of course, at this moment, Imo had mixed feelings. She only felt grateful that Bufang was able to stop the dragon and save her and the crown princess. Evil creature. Bufang frowned. He scolded the mad soul demon divine dragon. In his Taotai arm, the Taotai roared, and the energy of yin and yang swirled. Then, Bufang raised his hand and smashed the dragon's head with a punch. A tremendous force exploded out. The dragon's head was smashed into the starry sky. The dragon's breath deviated and streaked across the starry sky, leaving behind a scorching hot trail. The soul demon dragon's body was like a serpent with dragon claws, so he managed to stabilize himself and soared into the sky again. The next moment the dragon's breath spewed toward Bufang. Even the void was distorted. Facing the dragon's breath, Bufang did not dodge. He had never been afraid of anyone when it came to playing with fire. With a thought in his mind, a small silver flame suddenly rose in Bufang's palm. The silver flame danced and burned quietly. It seemed to form a strange fluctuation that spread in front of Bufang. The moment the dragon's breath approached Bufang, it parted to the sides. The dragon's breath could not touch Bufang at all. It was a shocking scene. Imo was dumbfounded. I can't believe this demigod is so talented. Phew. Turns out that there are such unconventional geniuses in this world. Fortunately, the crown princess is extremely talented and has comprehended 4 of the strongest laws of the universe. No one should be able to surpass her. Imo took a deep breath. In the distance, Bufang did not stay for long. The dragon's breath was useless against Bufang, so the soul demon divine dragon swooped at him. Bufang took a step forward and soared into the sky. He was standing on the dragon's back. A gust of wind blew as the dragon kept twisting and turning in the sky, performing all kinds of difficult postures to shake off Bufang. Bufang frowned. Then, he raised a hand and grabbed the ladle at his waist. He raised the ladle and smashed it down toward the dragon's head. A ladle! It's another ladle! Imo took a deep breath. The ladle was useful against soul demons, but would it work on dragons as well? The ladle was black and seemed to absorb all the light. As soon as the light approached the ladle, it was absorbed and collapsed. Bam! Bufang grabbed the ladle and gently knocked it on the dragon's head. The knock seemed light, but it was as if it carried a tremendous force. The soul demon divine dragon howled. With a bang, the huge body suddenly fell straight down. A loud rumble rang out, and thick smoke billowed out as it smashed into the Dragon Valley. It was as if the whole Dragon Valley was about to be smashed in half. It was a horrible scene. In the distance, Yu's cursed snakes had wrapped around two soul demons. Slowly, it corroded the bodies of the two soul demons. Before long, the bodies of the two soul demons were completely corroded. The black soul demons' true forms roared and soared into the sky, trying to flee. They knew that they had completely failed their mission. However, just as they were about to flee, a tremendous suction force came from the direction of the Dragon Valley. It made the two soul demons grieve, as if they had lost their parent. They wanted to flee, but no matter how hard they struggled, they could not break free from the suction. Gradually, they were sucked away. Bufang had knocked the dragon unconscious with the ladle, but he did not expect that the ladle would emit a suction force. It sucked the true forms of the two soul demons you had killed over. Qilin seems to be very interested in these soul demons. Compared to Stinky Tofu, Qilin is the nemesis of soul demons. Bufang glanced at the soul demon divine dragon, who was knocked out by his feet. Without the ladle, Bufang did not know how many tricks he would have to use. After all, this was an emperor-level soul demon. Sure enough, with a ladle in hand, the world is mine. Bufang's eyes lit up. Then, with a shake of his hand, the dragon bone kitchen knife appeared in it. While the divine dragon was still unconscious, Bufang took the opportunity to strike it. Bufang was ready to strike. A golden light flashed. The dragon bone kitchen knife slashed across the air. Then, Bufang reached out his hand, grabbed the dragon's back, and pulled it up. Splurt! Dragon blood spattered, and a golden dragon tendon was pulled out by Bufang from the dragon's back. The unconscious dragon woke up with a start, and the soul demon who had possessed it trembled. The divine flame in Bufang's hand flickered. Under Bufang's control, the silver flame turned into a leaping flame and formed a gourmet array, which Bufang pressed onto the dragon's wound. Gourmet array. Imprisonment. The dragon kept roaring and struggling. With its tendon pulled out, the emperor-level dragon could not even use 10% of its strength. It wanted to blow up its fleshly body, but the imprisonment array had sealed its true form. The soul demon was fuming with rage. What is this human trying to do? He was very happy when he transformed into the Dragon Emperor, and he was even happier when he broke free from the Dragon Emperor's seal before his death. But now he could not be happy at all. He wanted to cry, and he wanted to run. He wanted to return to his mother's arms. You, Little Hu, Aimo, the crown princess, and the others all looked over in confusion. They seemed curious about what Bufang was trying to do. Why would Bufang not kill the soul demon? It was useless to keep such an existence alive. Aimo hated the soul demon to the bone, and she gnashed her teeth. She felt inexplicably excited when she saw Bufang pull out the dragon's tendon and seal it. Behave yourself. Smack. Once everything was ready, Bufang slapped the dragon's head with his palm. The dragon was filled with grief and indignation. What is this human trying to do? In the ruins of the Dragon Valley, Bufang jumped down and landed on the ground. With his hands clasped behind his back, he looked indifferently at the huge dragon. The aura of the soul demon had seeped into the dragon meat. Bufang wondered what kind of ingredient it would become. I'll put it in the heaven and earth farmland for now. I'll take the meat when I need it, Bufang thought to himself. Then, he waved his hand. With that, the huge dragon was put into the farmland by Bufang. The farmland was extremely vast now. Nyo Han-san lay comfortably in front of the wooden hut, feeling the warm breeze in the air. He felt inexplicably comfortable. Suddenly, the sky trembled. A huge figure came crashing down from the sky. With a loud rumble, the ground trembled unceasingly. In front of the wooden hut, a group of apprentice chefs who were discussing cooking skills were a little confused. Brother Nyo, Owner Bu must have brought back ingredients again. Xiao Xiaolong shouted at Nyo Han-san excitedly as he looked at the behemoth that had fallen to the ground. The group of people immediately rushed toward the spot where the soul demon dragon had fallen. However, before they could get close, they felt a tremendous pressure, which almost suffocated them. It was the aura of an emperor-level existence. Although Xiao Xiaolong and the others had cultivated well in the heaven and earth farmland, they hadn't even touched the demigod realm, let alone the emperor realm. Nyo Han-san knew best that the ingredients Bufang had thrown in this time were freaking terrifying. The dragon was not dead. It was panting with its mouth open. Nyo Han-san was shocked. What did Owner Bu do to this dragon? Bufang put away the soul demon dragon and was very satisfied. An emperor-level ingredient. He dared not even think about it. Imo floated over with the injured Xiao Yinyu. Thank you for your help, Your Excellency, Imo said. She held the crown princess tightly, wary of what Bufang would do to her. Bufang glanced at Imo and twitched his mouth. Glancing at Xiao Yinyu, who was breathing weakly, he shook his hand, and an oyster pancake floated out. It was an improved version. Not only could it heal, but it could also nourish the divine sense. Feed it to her, Bufang said. Imo took the oyster pancake and narrowed her eyes. The crown princess is the proud daughter of heaven, a genius who has comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe, and the hope of all mankind. How can she eat something you give her? Imo held the oyster pancake and stared suspiciously at Bufang. Even though Bufang had saved them, she did not dare to let the crown princess eat something he gave her. Who knew if Bufang harbored evil intentions and coveted the crown princess's beauty? Bufang rolled his eyes. He really did not want to talk to this idiot. Comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe? What a coincidence. Me too. But I'm not the hope of all mankind. I'm just a chef. Besides, there are 2 crown princes working in my restaurant. The so-called proud daughter of heaven is nothing to me. And one last thing. Xiao Yinyu grew up eating my dishes. Are you still afraid that this oyster pancake is poisonous? Bufang looked at Imo and said unhurriedly, as if he was stating a fact. Imo's face froze. Rumble. In the distance, one warship after another of the Xiaoyi Divine Dynasty's warships was approaching at high speed. Gold Armor and his gold armor guards had finally arrived. Unfortunately, the battle here was over. Imo hesitated. The people of the Xiaoyi Divine Dynasty are here. Should I believe this, chef? Suddenly Bufang frowned. He turned his head and looked into the distance. Rumble there, the floating white-boned ship suddenly exploded. A silver light burst out from the white-boned ship that had been blown apart. A terrible aura pervaded the air, making everyone tremble. Bufang looked at the spot where the silver light was shining. His eyes narrowed. Soul 13. Chapter 1568. After the soul demon divine dragon was subdued by Bufang, the reinforcements of the Xiaoyi Divine Dynasty finally arrived. The reinforcements of the Xiaoyi Divine Dynasty had finally arrived. Gold Armor flew over with his army, crossing the sky at an extremely fast speed. One warship after another hovered in midair. His face grew slightly serious as he sensed the aftermath of the battle. The blazing aura that filled the air showed that a terrible battle had broken out here just now. In the distance, Gold Armor's pupils constricted when he saw Imo and Xiao Yinyu's miserable appearance. There was no doubt that Imo and Xiao Yinyu were from the immortal spirit divine dynasty. The divine emperor had sent him here to support the crown princess, and he didn't want any accidents to happen to them. However, when his eyes fell on Bufang, his expression became strange and suspicious. Owner Bu, why is he here? Gold Armor was a little confused. When he was in the divine dynasty's capital, he even nodded to Bufang. However, Bufang had arrived here even earlier than him and seemed to have gone through a great battle. However, this was not the time to pay attention to Bufang. Gold Armor flew to Amo's side. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something. Imo grabbed the oyster pancake and was still in a daze, thinking about what Bufang had just said. However, just then, the bone warship in the distance exploded, and a silver light emerged. Then, the void was torn apart, and a silver figure slowly emerged from it. A terrible aura filled the air, carrying the aura of a soul demon that blotted out the sky. Everyone was sensing this aura. The many golden armor guards behind gold armor began to tremble. It was too terrible. They trembled in fear from this aura. Soul 13. Gold Armor's pupils constricted as he sucked in a cold breath. Bufang's eyes narrowed as he stared coldly at Soul 13. It was not Soul 13's true form, but a clone that was attached to the bone warship. Soul 13 still looked like the Titan Divine Emperor, but he looked much more ferocious. His cold eyes were fixed on Bufang. Damn stinky chef. It's you again. Soul 13 said. It was Bufang again. That stinky chef had ruined his plans again and again. He did not expect that this chef would spoil the delicacy he was sure to get this time, a human who had comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe. Even the soul demon dragon in the Dragon Valley was subdued by Bufang. The soul demon dragon was about to break through to the Emperor realm, which was a great help to soul demons, but it was subdued by Bufang just like that. For the soul demons, this was a great loss. He really wanted to kill this chef. Boom boom boom. A terrible energy burst out from Soul 13's position. Instantly, it turned into a claw. This claw crossed the starry sky, directly grabbing at Bufang. The void seemed to have contracted at this moment. The golden armor's expression changed. Naturally, he could not just stand by and watch Soul 13 act violently. With a roar, he stood in front of Bufang. He held a golden sword in his hand. When he swung it, thousands of sword lights floated around his body. Pung pung pung. They shot out like cannonballs towards the claw. The collision between the sword and the claw produced a deafening rumble. Gold Armor's figure shifted a distance in the void, his aura fluctuating. He was a little shocked. This Soul 13 is too strong. He thought to himself. It was just a strike from a clone a million miles away, but he felt he could not resist it. How terrifying would he be if I faced Soul 13 in person? A God Emperor? No. He might not be just a God Emperor. Gold Armor was a little frightened. If he's not a God Emperor, then could he be a Heaven God? Impossible. There are only 5 Heaven Gods in the whole chaotic universe. How could Soul 13 become the 6th? Unless a Heaven God died, he would never become a Heaven God without a Heaven God's position. Bufang's face was indifferent. With his hands clasped behind his back, he frowned at Soul 13's shadow in the distance. Soul 13 did not seem to have spent too much time here. After the strike, his body began to disintegrate. Damn chef. Just you wait. Soon I, Soul 13, will skin you and devour you. I won't let you off. Soul 13's shadow dissipated, but his terrible warning still resounded in the void. The backs of the golden armor and the golden armor guards behind him were drenched. It was too terrifying. They could not believe that Soul 13 was so terrifying. If it weren't for something holding him back, perhaps he would have completely descended just now. At that time, what awaited them might be death. Soul 13's figure disappeared, but the haze it produced made everyone panic. Soul 13, Bufang murmured. He also felt a little heavy. He found that Soul 13 was really getting stronger. Perhaps the latter could really break through to the heaven god realm. If that was the case, it would be a disaster for the whole chaotic universe. Gold armor flew to Amo and Xiao Yenyu's side. Amo had already fed the oyster pancake to Xiao Yenyu. Xiao Yenyu's red lips moved slightly as she tasted the familiar taste. Then, a warm stream poured into her body. Her long eyelashes fluttered, and energy seemed to spin around her body. Then, she woke up. It really worked. Imo was extremely shocked. That chef's dishes really had such a powerful healing effect. His Majesty the Divine Emperor invites you in. Gold armor said thoughtfully as he looked at Imo and Xiao Yenyu. Imo nodded. Since they had come to the Xiaoyi Divine Dynasty from the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty, they naturally had to report their arrival to the Divine Emperor. As for Bu Feng, although Imo wanted to know more about that mysterious chef, he felt that there was always a layer of fog around him. And did he say that he had also comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe? Was this chef's talent even more terrifying than the crown princess's? Gold armor and the golden armor guards escorted Amo and the crown princess away. Before leaving, Xiao Yenyu fixed her eyes on Bufang. Bufang breathed a sigh of relief. Glancing at the ruins of the Dragon Valley, he felt the seriousness of the situation. Originally, Bufang thought that the experts of this chaotic universe should be able to stop the soul demons. But now, it seemed that they might not be able to stop the soul demons. He returned to Yu's netherworld ship. It tore through the void and plunged into it. Before long, it was back in the Xiaoyi Divine Dynasty's capital and landed on the roof of the Luo family's skyscraper. A long line had been waiting in front of the restaurant for a long time. The diners were all excited to see Bufang return. Bufang took down the sign in front of the restaurant, rolled up his sleeves, and stepped into the kitchen. Then, he began his daily cooking. With the Divine Emperor's order, experts from various aristocratic families could not wait to buy stinky tofu from Bufang. When they heard that stinky tofu could be used to deal with soul demons, these experts went crazy to buy stinky tofu. Gold armor returned to the capital with Amo and Xiao Yenyu. They flew across the sky and were somewhat stunned when they saw the bustling restaurant. Why is this chef so fast? Gold armor was puzzled, but he was also glad. If it weren't for Bufang's speed, Imo and the crown princess would have been dead and captured by the soul demons. If he was captured by a soul demon, he would be a sinner. Not only did he fail to complete the Divine Emperor's task, but he also let a genius who had comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe fall into the hands of the soul demons. So, for some reason, he looked at the restaurant with gratitude in his eyes. On the warship, Xiao Yenyu's big eyes turned to look at the restaurant on the top of the skyscraper. Is that Bufang's restaurant here? Sure enough, gold will shine wherever it goes. Even in the Divine Dynasty's capital, it's the same as in the Light Wind Empire's capital. Even the restaurant's business is so hot. Xiao Yenyu thought to herself. She could not wait to go to Bufang's restaurant. Without Bufang's restaurant, she always felt that something was missing. The Divine Emperor had met Amo and Xiao Yenyu. The news of the Empress's death had finally come out. This made both Xiao Yenyu and Amo sad for a long time. The Divine Emperor was also under great pressure. The Empress's strength was no weaker than his, but she was still killed by Soul 13. This was unimaginable to him. After chatting with Amo and Xiao Yenyu for a while, then, he asked someone to arrange a place for them to stay. Meanwhile, the Xiaoyi Divine Dynasty began to have a heated discussion about the Soul Demon's protection mission. The temporary task was completed. Unfortunately, it was not very attractive to Bufang, and the reward was only a drop of the God of Cooking's divine power liquid drop. Now, he had 2 drops of the God of Cooking's divine power liquid drop. In the kitchen, Bufang and the Titan Crown Prince were busy cooking. The wok was tossing and frying, and flames rose to the sky. The aroma of the dishes, the smell of stinky tofu, and all kinds of other smells filled the air. Bufang placed one stinky tofu after another on the kitchen window. The shy crown prince could always take the stinky tofu away at the right time and distribute it to every diner who bought it. Of course, the crown prince would roll up his face and plug his nose with a cloth towel. The stinky tofu was indeed ugly, although it tasted delicious. Everything seemed to be falling into place. However, everyone knew that this was just a facade. As all kinds of battle reports came back from outside, many people became anxious. That was because the battle report that was sent back was not good news. They were all about the fall of various great worlds. The Xiai Divine Emperor was getting older. He had too many things to consider, and the scouts he had sent to the immortal spirit divine dynasty to investigate had gone missing. All these made him feel extremely uneasy. It was as if some great disaster was brewing. This feeling made him feel like he was sitting on pins and needles. 2 of the 3 divine dynasties in this chaotic universe had been destroyed, and the soul demon's power had grown to a very terrifying level. All of this made the divine emperor anxious. Fortunately, the crown princess of the immortal spirit divine dynasty was safe. When he sensed the crown princess's formidable talent, he was stunned. Did the empress of the immortal spirit divine dynasty say that the crown princess was the hope of all mankind? The fact that she had comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe was indeed unparalleled. As long as the crown princess grew up, mankind might be able to fight her. However, the question now was whether the soul demons would give them enough time to develop and mature. The soul demon's pace was getting faster and faster, or rather, Soul 13's pace was getting faster and faster. The divine emperor could feel Soul 13's unscrupulousness. He was so strong that they could not even breathe. He felt that Soul 13 was brewing a great terror. In the restaurant, Xiao Yinyu sat in a chair, looked up, and looked around. The familiar environment made her a little nostalgic. Everything was like the restaurant in her memory. Bufang's thin figure walked out of the kitchen, shaking off the water on his hands. The Titan Crown Prince followed behind him, while the Xiai Crown Prince was sitting in a chair, resting. Together with Xiao Yinyu, the Crown Princess of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty. He could not believe that all the princes and princesses of the 3 divine dynasties had gathered together. Chapter 1569. Wiping the water off his hands with a clean white cloth, Bufang's slender fingers were fair, straight, and well-defined. The skin on his fingers, which had just been soaked in water, looked a little tender and pale. Bufang walked out of the kitchen and looked at the 3 people in the restaurant. The Crown Princess and the 2 Crown Princes finally met in the restaurant. In fact, Xiao Yinyu was the hidden Crown Princess of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty, so this could be considered their first meeting. The Titan Crown Prince and the Xiai Crown Prince had met before, so they were quite familiar with each other. As for Xiao Yinyu, as the Crown Princess, this was the first time she met them. She was very quiet and shy, far from the fiery Xiai Crown Prince and the overbearing Titan Crown Prince. Their gazes swept over Xiao Yinyu's body with great scrutiny. Xiao Yinyu wore a veil, which was the rule of the Crown Princess of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty. The 2 Crown Princes' gazes were so oppressive that they made Xiao Yinyu twist her body uneasily. When Bufang came out and saw this scene, he couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. The iconic geniuses of the 3 divine dynasties met in their own restaurant and played a game of Fight the Landlord. It was rare. After all, the 3 divine dynasties were millions of miles apart from each other. If it were in the past, the 3 of them would never have met. It was interesting that they could meet now. "All right, don't scare people," Bufang said faintly. The Xiai Crown Prince and the Titan Crown Prince immediately withdrew their gazes. The Titan Crown Prince trusted Bufang more. If it weren't for Bufang, he might have been killed by the soul demons and become their food. The shy crown prince had also been taught a lesson by Bufang many times, and he had long lost the courage to confront Bufang. Bufang pulled a chair and sat down. He had been working hard in the kitchen all day, so it was a good time to chat with Xiao Yinyu. In fact, Bufang had asked Xiao Xiaolong about it in the Heaven and Earth farmland. When Bufang asked him about it, the latter was naive enough to think that his sister was still in the Light Wind Empire. In reality, Xiao Yinyu had already been taken away. The main reason was that ever since he had opened up the Heaven and Earth farmland, Xiao Xiaolong's daily activity space had become the restaurant, and the farmland had changed. After chatting with Xiao Yinyu for a while, the two princes finally realized that Xiao Yinyu was actually an old acquaintance of Bufang. After chatting, Xiao Yinyu left the restaurant. She returned to the residence that the Divine Emperor had arranged for her. Meanwhile, Bufang left the restaurant and headed for the Divine Chef Temple. As soon as she entered the Divine Chef Temple, Summer appeared unpredictably. You finally remember that you are the Lord of the Divine Chef Temple, Xia Chen's faint voice resounded. Summer had planned to leave the Divine Dynasty to search for Mu Hongzi. However, the soul demons were wreaking havoc in the chaotic universe, so she chose to stay in the Divine Dynasty. Bufang glanced at Xiaji, the corner of his mouth twitching. He walked for a while in the Divine Chef Temple. When the surrounding Divine Chefs saw Bufang, they all bowed and greeted him. Bufang was the Lord of the Divine Chef Temple, a status that ordinary Divine Chefs did not dare to offend. With his current cooking skills, Bufang should have reached the level of a Heaven Divine Chef, and he had some prestige in the Divine Chef Temple. In the past, Bufang was just an Earth Divine Chef, and it would be difficult for him to win people's trust. But now, Bufang had already shown his cooking skills. The stinky tofu, which could restrain the soul demons, was the product of the Lord of the Divine Chef Temple's research. Now, the people of the Divine Chef Temple held their heads high when they walked on the street. The effect of stinky tofu had been verified. The experts who bought stinky tofu from Bufang took it and went to the front line of the great worlds to fight the soul demons. Every time they fought, they threw out a bowl of stinky tofu, which exploded and burned the soul demons into silver flames. It was very easy to deal with the soul demons. The army, which had been suppressed by the soul demons, suddenly gained a great advantage, and they were basically crushing the soul demons. The army kept winning, and the news of victory came frequently. In the Divine Chef Temple, in the place where the ancient heaven god's inheritance was sealed, 2 layers of the seal had been broken by Bufang, and now Bufang was going to continue. And now, he had the capital to continue. Summer stood on the railing and looked at Bufang. She was looking forward to what benefits and cooking skills Bufang would obtain after he completely broke the seal. The other divine chefs gathered around as well. It was a rare opportunity for them to see the Lord of the Divine Chef Temple break the seal. Bufang was a heaven divine chef now. Bufang stood in front of the seal. His divine sense surged and touched the seal. After a while, his body fused into the seal and became blurry. The surrounding people's breathing became rapid. Xia Chen's eyes also narrowed. The further the seal went, the more dangerous it became. Many divine chefs had been completely wiped out when they tried to break the seal. She hoped that Bufang would not follow in their footsteps. Bufang narrowed his eyes. He felt a burst of heat. In the surroundings, there were surging hot currents. The ground beneath his feet was solid, and the feeling of solidity was very realistic. If Bufang did not remember that he was trying to break through the seal, he might have thought that he had been teleported somewhere else. In front of him was a huge circular mountain pass. In the mouth of the mountain, there was red, boiling magma. The crimson color shone on his face. Waves of heat rolled over, making Bufang feel a burst of heat. The test this time is at the mouth of the volcano? Bufang's heart stirred. Then, a boiling hot current surged up from within the volcano. As the current surged, it emitted a gurgling sound, emitting hot steam. Bufang's spiritual sense spread out, and columns of flames spewed out from the volcano's crater. Bufang's divine sense spread out and immediately poured into each of the flame columns. Could this be the test this time? Do I have to control each column? Knife skills, wok-tossing skills, and this time, fire control skills? Fire control skills were also very important for Chef. So, this time, Bufang did not think too much. He began the test and began his performance. It has begun. Outside, the pupils of the divine chefs constricted as they cried out in alarm. Summer grabbed the railing, and the railing was crushed to pieces. Looking at the numbers that appeared on the array, which were slowly increasing, his heart was filled with excitement. Too many divine chefs had died in this seal. She did not know if Bufang could succeed or not. But if even Bufang could not do it, then no one could break this seal. Boom! Bufang stood at the mouth of the volcano. Columns of flames rushed up from the crater, which was boiling like a lake. Each of the flaming columns was aimed at Bufang. Bufang's divine sense, on the other hand, was controlling the cylinder to change its direction, causing it to change its direction. However, the number of columns kept increasing. 9,999 columns. The lava in the crater did not decrease. It kept surging, and one column after another soared into the sky as if they were going to pierce the clouds. Bufang frowned as he released his divine sense to control the columns. His aura fluctuated, and the white smoke he spewed out of his mouth evaporated in an instant. 19,999 columns. The number was still increasing, just like when he was practicing the wok-tossing skill. Bufang began to feel the strain. After all, his divine sense was still at the level of a demigod. 29,999 columns. 30,000, 40,000, what the f*ck? As expected of His Excellency Palace Master. This divine sense's control power is seriously too astonishing. Is His Excellency going to break the record again? The surrounding divine chefs sucked in their breaths in amazement, their faces filled with horror. Suddenly, a sense of hope rose in their hearts. Summer's breathing quickened. Her heart surged as she watched the numbers on the array change. 70,000, 80,000 beads of sweat had already appeared on Bufang's forehead. He focused his eyes and looked ahead. In the crater, countless columns of flames towered into the sky, almost filling the entire crater. Each column seemed to be the roar of a divine dragon, and they put tremendous pressure on Bufang, which made Bufang's expression change slightly. Drip. Beads of sweat slid across his face, down his cheeks, and finally fell to the ground. It was like a drop of water falling into a calm lake, causing ripples to spread across its surface. 90,000. Bufang narrowed his eyes. The pressure on him grew greater and greater. It was not only the pressure on his divine sense, but also the scorching heat of the columns. The heat seemed to have turned solid, and it made his heart tremble slightly. The whole divine chef temple was alarmed. The news that His Excellency was breaking the ancient heaven god's seal spread in an instant. Countless divine chefs broke into the forbidden land. Inside and outside, they were crowded with divine chef. Now, the pressure of the soul demons weighed on everyone's hearts. If the divine chef temple's heaven god seal was broken, they would be able to obtain the treasures passed down by the heaven god. It would certainly increase their momentum by a lot. There were only 5 heaven gods in the entire chaotic universe. But now, the soul demons had almost occupied half of the chaotic universe, and yet the heaven gods were still nowhere to be seen. Many people were disappointed with the modern heaven god. Of course, it was not up to them to judge the heaven gods. Although they were disappointed, they did not show it. The news that Bufang was breaking the heaven god's seal even alarmed the Shai divine emperor. The ancient heaven god's relic had been emptied. Now, perhaps the only thing left behind by the ancient heaven god was the divine chef temple's heaven god seal. Of course, Bufang did not know what had happened. Bufang was still working hard to break the seal. The further he went, the greater the pressure became. 99,990. Bufang looked as if he had just been fished out of a pool. He was soaked, and his sweat was quickly evaporated by the scorching heat. So, Bufang's body seemed to be surrounded by a mist. There were 9 more. However, the last one was extremely difficult. Bufang's divine sense seemed to be pushing a mountain that weighed tens of millions of tons. It was so heavy that it made Bufang's soul creak. It was such a difficult seal. If there was nothing good in it, Bufang would never do such a tiring thing again. Rumble! Bufang's eyes turned red. The crater in front of him seemed to be on the verge of bursting. Finally, the last column of fire rose. The whole sky burst into a dazzling light. Everyone sucked in their breaths. They watched as the number on the light screen jumped to 99,999. Their hearts skipped a beat. It was a breakthrough. It was a success. This layer of seal had finally been broken. At this moment, the whole divine chef temple fell silent. The Xiai divine emperor stood at Summer's side with his hands clasped behind his back, his eyes shining brightly. Mu Hongzhi found the ancient heaven god's relic, but it was broken by someone he fancied. Could this be the legendary Karma? The divine emperor opened his mouth and murmured. He felt a little nostalgic about Mu Hongzhi. He was an extraordinary man who had stirred up a storm in the Xiai divine dynasty. But in the end, he disappeared like a bubble without a trace or a sound. Bufang was different from Mu Hongzhi. Bufang was serious, while Mu Hongzhi was coquettish. However, the divine emperor saw Mu Hongzhi's shadow in Bufang. Was it an illusion? Rumble! Finally Bufang's figure slowly emerged. The inheritance seal shattered, revealing Bufang's figure, which was drenched in sweat. The divine power he had just comprehended was surging in Bufang's mind. But that was not what shocked Bufang the most. What shocked Bufang the most was the thing sealed in the innermost part. After breaking the 3rd seal, Bufang finally saw what was inside the inheritance seal. It was the inheritance left by the ancient heaven god to his descendants. It was a colorful fruit, a fruit that Bufang was very familiar with. Oh, that's the fruit of law. Bufang wiped the sweat from his forehead, and a strange look came over his face. Chapter 1570. Bufang looked at the fruit, which emitted a colorful glow. It was a fruit of law, and it was surrounded by the mysterious aura of the law. It never occurred to him that the thing sealed in the ancient heaven god's seal was actually a fruit of law. It was a fruit that could help people comprehend the laws. The colorful glow spread, swirling with a strange light and emitting an extremely bright light. The surrounding divine chefs were all stunned. Suddenly, they all sucked in a cold breath. That's a fruit of law. It seems to be. And it's not an ordinary fruit of law. A 7-colored fruit of law. It's a legendary treasure. I heard that eating it can help people comprehend the supreme laws of the universe. The surrounding divine chefs were talking among themselves. Their breathing became rapid. No one thought that the heaven god's inheritance would be this kind of thing. I heard that the fruit of law is something that can only be found by luck. There are records in ancient books that the 7-colored fruit of law is born in the chaotic sea of laws. There's also a saying that it's transformed from the essence of a heaven god's life after his death, so it's very precious. The 7-colored fruit of law can not only help people comprehend the supreme laws, but it can also enhance their talents. It's a divine medicine for demigods who are laying the foundation. The divine chefs stared at the 7-colored fruit in the seal with greed and envy on their faces. However, although the fruit was exposed, it was still wrapped in a seal. Ordinary people could only look at it. Suddenly, the breathing of the divine emperor on the high platform suddenly quickened. The wrinkles on his old face kept twitching. A 7-colored fruit of law. A fruit that can help people comprehend the supreme laws. The divine emperor's voice seemed a little hoarse. He glanced at the colorful fruit of law, then at Bufang, and his eyes burst into a dazzling light. Mr. Bu has comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe. If he gets this fruit of law and eats it, he may comprehend the last supreme law. Is Mr. Bu going to create unprecedented history? Is he going to comprehend 5 supreme laws of the universe in the demigod realm? Even the divine emperor himself was shocked when he thought of this. The idea was too scary. For an ordinary person, comprehending one supreme law was enough to be called a genius. But Bufang had the chance to comprehend 5 Dao. Xia Chen also thought of this scene. His eyes narrowed, and he was so shocked that he didn't know what to say. When a miracle was about to happen in front of them, their hearts were filled with complicated emotions that were difficult to express. Bufang touched his chin and took a few steps back. Looking at the fruit of law floating in the seal, his eyes narrowed. His heart palpitated with eagerness. Once he gathered the 5th supreme law of the universe, Bufang did not know how strong he would be. Perhaps he would have a chance to break through to the heavenly god realm. However, if he wanted to continue attacking the seal today, he probably wouldn't have the chance to do so. As for the remaining seals, Bufang could sense that they were different from the rest. Therefore, even Bufang did not dare to try it. The main reason was that he was a little tired after breaking the seal. Taking out an oyster pancake, Bufang stuffed it into his mouth and took a bite. With a crackling sound, oil flowed out of the oyster pancake, filling the air with a rich fragrance. Bufang, of course, longed for the fruit of law. However, Bufang did not force it. His desire was not strong. He was the first to leave the divine chef temple. The others also left one after another. The divine emperor, on the other hand, was extremely vigilant about the last fruit of law. He had specially sent guards to guard the heaven god seal. In the divine chef temple, the news that an extremely precious 7-colored fruit of law had been found in the ancient heaven god seal spread throughout the divine dynasty's capital. No one had seen the fruit of law before, so they were very curious and amazed. As soon as the news came out, Imo, who was healing her wounds in the courtyard, became excited. She went to look for Xiao Yanyu, but found that the crown princess was not there. Without a doubt, the crown princess had gone to the restaurant to eat and drink again. She had not avenged the immortal spirit divine dynasty yet, so how could the crown princess be so lazy? So, Imo went to Bufang's restaurant and found Xiao Yanyu, who was happily drinking the Buddha jumps over the wall soup. Xiao Yanyu was very happy to drink this familiar delicacy. It was as if she had returned to the Light Wind Empire. When she ate and drank in Bufang's restaurant, it was the happiest time of her life. Crown Princess, come with Imo. Imo found Xiao Yanyu and was somewhat disappointed. The Crown Princess's character was too weak and shy. How could such a character carry the Empress's long-cherished wish? Xiao Yanyu's mouth was still stuffed with the Buddha jumps over the wall soup. She did not expect Imo to be so anxious. She hurriedly finished the soup, narrowed her eyes, and breathed a sigh of relief. Then, she was pulled out of the restaurant by Imo and headed for the Xiai Imperial Palace. Bufang wiped his hands and walked out of the restaurant. He gave Imo a puzzled look as she left in a hurry, then went back to the restaurant to cook. Bufang handed the task of cooking stinky tofu to the Titan Crown Prince. Nowadays, stinky tofu was the best-selling dish because it had a great restraining effect on soul demons. Some people bought stinky tofu and sent it to the front line. Some bought stinky tofu and ate it themselves. They did not mind the stench and ate happily. As a result, Bufang's turnover kept rising. Bufang felt as if he was about to reach a critical point. This made him more and more excited. In the Xiai Divine Dynasty's imperial palace, the Xiai Divine Emperor clasped his hands behind his back and read the war report from the front line. Perhaps because of the stinky tofu, the Soul Demon's offensive had weakened. The two sides had reached a stalemate, and the Xiai divine dynasty had even recaptured many lost great worlds. Everything seemed to have become quite good. Reporting, Your Majesty, Protector Mo of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty requests an audience. The sharp voice of a eunuch interrupted the Divine Emperor's mood while he was reading the report. The Divine Emperor raised his head and nodded. Then, outside the great hall, Mo pulled Xiao Yanyu and flew over. The Divine Emperor put away the memorial and looked at Mo and Xiao Yanyu with a smile. Protector Mo, are you used to staying in the Xiai Divine Dynasty's capital? What's the matter? Why are you so anxious to see me? The Divine Emperor sat cross-legged. Mo glanced at the Crown Princess. When she saw that her eyes were narrowed and her red lips were greasy, as if she was still savoring the taste of the Buddha jumps over the wall soup, she was a little speechless. She turned her head away. She felt that she had to seize any opportunity for her Crown Princess, because the Empress had said that the Crown Princess was the hope of all mankind. Your Majesty, I do have a request. Please speak, Protector Mo. The Divine Emperor nodded with a smile. He was polite to the people of the Immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty. After all, he also felt it was a pity that the Empress had fallen. I heard that a precious seven-colored fruit of law has appeared in the Xiai Divine Dynasty. I hope Your Majesty can give the fruit of law to the Crown Princess, Mo said. When she said these words, she also felt a little awkward. She saw the Divine Emperor frown. Your Majesty, I know this request may be a little unreasonable, but the Crown Princess is really the hope of all mankind. If the heaven gods don't show up, the human race may really be wiped out. So, Your Majesty, for the sake of the overall situation, please give the fruit of law to the Crown Princess. The Divine Emperor's face turned slightly cold. He did not expect that Mo would come to him and talk about this. The fruit of law does not belong to the imperial family, so I can't make the decision. It belongs to the Divine Chef Temple. Protector Mo should go to the Lord of the Divine Chef Temple. The Divine Emperor's face eased a lot, and he shifted the blame to Bufang. The Crown Princess has comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe, and she is the hope of all mankind. Give her another fruit of law, and she will be able to comprehend a perfect law. At that time, she will definitely attract the attention of the heaven gods. Once she grows up, she will certainly become a heaven god, Mo said. Her eyes widened, and she was very confident in Xiao Yanyu. 4 supreme laws of the universe. The Divine Emperor's expression became slightly strange. Mr. Bu has also comprehended 4 supreme laws of the universe. His talent is even more exceptional. In fact, I think the hope of all mankind should be him, the Divine Emperor said seriously. Mo's face froze. She knew it would be like this, but she had to fight for the Crown Princess's chance. Yes, Bufang is very powerful. Xiao Yanyu nodded and agreed with the Divine Emperor. Mo was very angry. Her Crown Princess was really a little stupid. She was fighting for the Crown Princess's benefit, but the Crown Princess was pushing it away. Was she siding with an outsider? Your Majesty, if you give the fruit of law to the Crown Princess, I'm willing to serve the Xiai Divine Dynasty for 10,000 years. Mo said, gritting her teeth. A top high-grade god king serving the Divine Dynasty for 10,000 years was definitely a great help. Unfortunately, if you want the fruit of law, you should go to Bufang. I can't make the decision, the Divine Emperor said slowly. After that, he waved his hand. The eunuch flicked his horsetail whisk and said in a sharp voice, signaling the guest to leave. Reluctantly, Mo left the palace with the Crown Princess. Mo, Bufang is really powerful, Xiao Yanyu said, looking at the reluctant Mo. Mo turned to look at her Crown Princess and found that her eyes were full of confidence. It was not confidence in herself, but in Bufang. Mo sighed. My Crown Princess is a little stupid. What should I do? I'm waiting online for a solution. In the immortal spirit divine dynasty, outside a towering and exquisite palace on the divine mountain, numerous huge shadows hovered in the air. Each of them was a powerful numbered soul demon. Their dark energy pervaded the air, turning the immortal spirit divine dynasty's capital, which was like a paradise for immortals, into a land of demons. In the palace, on a high seat, Soul 13 sat on it. His whole body was silver white, and his eyes were scarlet. The silver insect wings on his back were spread, emitting a clanging sound and bursting with sharp energy. He turned his head slightly, and his neck made a cracking sound. In front of him, on the other hand, there was a hazy, pitch-black sphere. Many figures were imprisoned within the sphere. There was the withered Lord of Phoenix, and the immortal Spirit Empress, who only had her divine sense left. Phoenixes can rise from the ashes. I've killed them several times, but they're still alive. They're really strong creatures. Soul 13 propped his chin up with one hand, the corners of his mouth curling up slightly. His scarlet eyes stared at the phoenix in the ball, reflecting the phoenix's appearance. Suddenly, behind him, a black phoenix floated out, spreading its wings and letting out a sweet cry. Soul 13 opened his mouth. The phoenix swooped down, rushed into his mouth, and was absorbed by him. Wiping his mouth, Soul 13 felt that his aura had become a little stronger. Inside the black ball, the black aura kept spreading. The originally clear eyes of the dispirited phoenix gradually became blurry. Soon, they turned scarlet and a fierce aura filled the air. The immortal Spirit Empress, who was hovering in midair, looked pained. Looking at the demonized phoenix, she felt extreme pain in her heart. Tisk, I've lost a demonized dragon emperor that I've worked so hard to get, and now I have a demonized Lord of Phoenix. This is not bad. Soul 13 grinned. The next moment, he rose to his feet. A terrible black aura towered into the sky, rolling and surging. The terrible pressure was so oppressive that heaven and earth seemed to be on the verge of collapse. His eyes suddenly turned scarlet. In a flash, he appeared in front of the black ball, staring at the immortal Spirit Empress with his scarlet eyes. Do you know why I didn't kill you? Soul 13 said, staring at the immortal Spirit Empress. The immortal Spirit Empress in the black ball spat angrily. These damned disgusting soul demons. She felt a little sad. Is there no one in the chaotic universe who can stop them? Have the soul demons become so lawless? Soul 13's strength has far surpassed the Emperor level and is not much weaker than that of a heaven god. He is a nightmare for the whole universe. Why haven't the heaven gods of this chaotic universe appeared yet? Do I really have to watch the destruction of mankind? Soul 13 shook his head, then opened his mouth and breathed out a mouthful of black smoke. The next moment, the space between his eyebrows slowly split open as if it had turned into an eye. Then, he stretched out a silver claw. Suddenly, the claw reached out and plunged into the black ball. The immortal Spirit Empress's body was instantly caught by the silver claw. An Emperor-level divine sense is here to witness the moment I, Soul 13, become a soul overlord. You should feel honored. Soul 13 grinned, his voice cold. Rumble, above the imperial palace of the immortal Spirit Divine Dynasty, the dark energy swept over and turned into a huge vortex in the sky. The breathing of the numbered soul demons outside became rapid as they looked up at the sky with great respect. It has begun. Soul 13 is going to break through to the Soul Overlord realm. The humans in this world will soon become our food. I wonder which of the 7 sins Soul 13 will become a Soul Overlord. At this moment, the whole chaotic universe underwent a shocking change. Everyone seemed to have a lingering fear. It was as if a stone was pressing on their chests, making it hard for them to breathe. The gods who had comprehended the supreme laws of the universe, on the other hand, found that their power of law was boiling uncontrollably. They seemed to be angry and uneasy at the same time. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.